Chapter 2807. That was where the virtual mirror array was located. The 108 spirit mirrors shone brightly at the same time, forming a huge light pillar above their heads. Inside the light pillar was the virtual secret realm they formed. Although it was called a virtual secret realm, the attacks inside were all real. They were the attacks from the spirit mirrors. Because only in this way could they achieve the effect of training. Otherwise, there would not be any sense of urgency or danger when they entered the secret realm for treasure hunting training, since there would not be any injuries. Naturally, it would be useless. However, these spirit mirrors would check the condition of the people who entered. Once they were seriously injured, they would be teleported out. Therefore, there was no danger to their lives. If not for this, the elders of the Star Alliance wouldn't have allowed Su Xiaoxiao and the others to participate in this competition. However, they didn't know that at this moment, an invisible light suddenly flew in from the outside and rushed into the mirror array. The opponent's strength and ability couldn't be restrained by the mirror array at all. Luo Qingtong stood far away in this special area and watched the invisible light rush into the mirror array. Instantly, the blood-red light in her eyes flashed fiercely. She raised her hand and summoned Little Pig. The latter was sleeping in the 9-layer exquisite pagoda and replenishing his strength. When he felt her summon, he almost fell from the sky. What's wrong? Is there any danger? It looked left and right, looking as if it was ready to attack. Luo Qingtong's face was filled with anger. Don't worry, there's no danger. This guy, could it be that she only summoned him when she was in danger? Haha. Little Pig laughed dryly and quickly changed the topic. Master, why are you looking for me? Whenever he felt guilty, he would call her master. Moreover, he called her master in a very sweet way. Luo Qingtong chuckled. However, she didn't bicker with Little Pig. This was the time to get down to business. Can you enter that mirror array? When Luo Qingtong arrived, the mirror array had already been activated. Su Xiaoxiao and Ling Tianhan had already entered. Moreover, even if they did not enter, Luo Qingtong would not stop Ling Tianhan and the others from entering without knowing the dangers inside. They were fighting for her reputation. She couldn't let them give up the opportunity to compete with others and admit defeat on the spot, because of a groundless threat. This was an insult to Ling Tianhan and the others, as well as a sign of disrespect. Moreover, even if he admitted defeat, he would still have to fulfill the terms of the bet. Ling Tianhan and the others would never cheat, even if the elders of the Star Alliance protected them. Therefore, Luo Qingtong would not stop them from entering. But that ray of light just now, Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. If she wasn't wrong, that was what Mo Zhuling relied on to deal with Xiaoxiao and the others. She couldn't let them hurt Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Immediately, Little Pig also saw the huge mirror formation. Sure. He nodded and said, let that little ball send you in. It's a sector beast. It can travel through all spaces and barriers. As its voice sounded, Luo Qingtong had already raised her hand to summon Tuanzi. However, after hearing how Tuanzi sent her in, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. Did this guy do it on purpose? Chapter 2808. Is there no other way? Luo Qingtong felt a headache coming on. Chirp, chirp, chirp. Xiao Tuanzi lay in her arms and chirped, looking very pitiful and anxious. Little Pig glanced at it, then translated to Luo Qingtong. This fellow said that if it had enough energy, it wouldn't need to do this. But it doesn't have enough energy, so it can only use that method to bring Master in. Actually, I think this method is not bad. Master, look. This virtual mirror formation is a treasure of the Star Alliance. Maybe someone can see what's inside. If people find out that you can enter this mirror formation, I'm afraid it won't be a good thing. Especially since that Mo Zhuling was able to hide from the Star Alliance and tamper with this mirror formation. I'm afraid her background isn't as simple as it seems. Luo Qingtong's brows furrowed when she heard Little Pig's words. Okay. She nodded and said to Xiao Tuanzi. Then we'll do as you say. Luo Qingtong didn't know why, but she had a feeling that the ball of light that entered the mirror formation might be Mo Zhuling's consciousness. Because she wouldn't let anyone else deal with the people around her. First of all, she might not be able to trust others. Second of all, since she had such a method, she wouldn't let others know. It must be her trump card. Therefore, that ball of light might be Emo Zhuling's consciousness. If that was the case, then it would explain why Emo Zhuling wanted to lure Xiaoxiao and the others to participate in this treasure hunt. Her goal from the very beginning was probably not to win the bet, but to personally deal with Xiaoxiao and the others in the mirror formation. If that was the case, Xiaoxiao and the others would be in great danger. Since Emo Zhuling could enter the mirror formation without any hindrance, he wouldn't be restricted by it. At that time, there wouldn't be any need to stop and be sent out after being severely injured. She would definitely torture Xiaoxiao and the others inside. As Luo Qingtong thought of this, she no longer hesitated. At this moment, Emo Zhuling entered the scene created by the virtual mirror array under the guidance of the black fog. He immediately began to search for the group of people from the advanced continent. She was currently in the form of a consciousness, so she had to find something to attach herself to. Otherwise, she would not be able to attack. However, at this moment, she was enveloped by the power of the black fog, and would not be attacked by the power of the mirror array. In fact, the power within the mirror array was completely unaware of Emo Zhuling's entry. When he realized this, Emo Zhuling became even more fearful of the power of the black fog. She already knew that this black fog was very strong, otherwise, it wouldn't have been able to suppress the trace of power in her heart and heal her body. But now, the ability revealed by the black fog was even more unfathomable. Emo Zhuling originally thought that the black fog could only bring her into the world of the mirror array, and she would have to deal with the rest by herself. He didn't expect that the black fog's power would be able to make the power of the mirror array ignore her. In this way, wouldn't she be invincible in the mirror array? Chapter 2809. At that moment, Emo Zhuling wanted to laugh wildly. Haha, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. In this way, the subordinates of that B*TCH Luo Qingtong won't be able to escape from me. Emo Zhuling's heart was full of pride and ecstasy. She had originally planned to torture Su Xiaoxiao and the others here. She didn't expect the black fog to give her such a big surprise. It seemed that the black fog really hated Luo Qingtong to the core. In order to deal with her subordinates, it didn't hesitate to spend energy to cover the power of the mirror array. It should be known that it brought her into the mirror array, and let her deal with Luo Qingtong's subordinates were two different things. Perhaps the black fog didn't need to spend too much energy to enter the array. However, Emo Zhuling believed that it would take a lot of energy to make her be ignored by the power of the mirror array, and almost invincible in the mirror array, no matter how powerful the black fog was. Because it didn't mention this to her before. It seemed that it didn't plan to do so before. But she didn't know why it suddenly changed its mind. She was afraid that Luo Qingtong's subordinates might have something to rely on and run away. As expected, the black fog snorted coldly. You people from the Star Alliance really care about the safety of that B*TCH Luo Qingtong's subordinates. They're paying close attention to this place now. If I didn't cover your aura, I'm afraid they would have sensed it immediately. It wasn't easy to get the opportunity to lure them into the mirror array. How could I let them have a chance to run away? Go ahead and attack them. I don't believe that they'll either be dead or disabled. That B*TCH Luo Qingtong won't show up. As soon as the black fog finished speaking, Emo Zhuling instantly understood why it suddenly changed its mind. It turned out that those old bastards from the Star Alliance were worried that something would happen to Luo Qingtong's subordinates, so they were closely monitoring the mirror array. Unfortunately, they did not know that she had an existence like the black fog by her side. She was not afraid of their surveillance at all. Not only that, but their surveillance also gave her more leverage. Now that she was invincible in this mirror array, did she still need to be afraid of Luo Qingtong's people running away? As Emo Zhuling thought of this, he laughed coldly. At this moment, somewhere in the secret realm projected by the virtual mirror array, a group of people from a high-rank continent are fighting with a group of monster beasts. These demonic beasts were all illusions created by the power of the mirror array. The strength of each beast was arranged according to the strength of the people who came to explore the secret realm, and the strength of the team. Every one of them was enough to force out the potential and strength of the people who came to explore the secret realm. Therefore, the people of these high-ranked continents had no way of dealing with the attacks of these demonic beasts. This was because the existence of the virtual mirror array wasn't meant for Star Alliance students to train their strength. Instead, it was meant for the extremely powerful people in the Star Alliance who had experienced life and death situations, to squeeze out and force out their potential. At the same time, it was also meant to let them better understand and experience the horror and cruelty of the secret realm, so that when they encountered similar scenes in the future, they would be able to deal with it better and not get into trouble. Under such circumstances, these people from the high-rank continents were not even a match for Su Xiaoxiao. How could they deal with the attacks of these demonic beasts? Chapter 28:10. Seeing those demonic beasts leaping up and spitting out terrifying attacks towards them, the group of people from the high-rank continents were scared out of their wits. They were not afraid that these attacks would kill them, because the mirror array would naturally judge the strength of these attacks. Once it exceeded the limit of what they could bear, it would immediately teleport them out. But in this case, they would lose the competition, and they would have to pay with their lives to Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Thinking so, the group of people suddenly had a look of horror and fear on their faces. In such a situation, they screamed without caring about anything else. Eldest Miss, save me, Eldest Miss. The group of people listened to Emo Zhuling's arrangement to compete with Su Xiaoxiao and the others in the treasure hunt. Now, they were about to be blasted out of the mirror array, before they could even see the face of the treasure. They would definitely die at that time, so how could they not panic? Emo Zhuling promised that he would definitely let them win. When the crowd thought of this, they were already desperate enough to turn to any doctor they could find. They started shouting loudly. At this moment, with a swoosh, an invisible light flashed in an instant, and attached itself to the body of one of the high-rank continents who was about to faint. A bunch of trash. The person from the high-class continent who was about to faint suddenly opened his eyes, revealing a sharp and cold light. Emo Zhuling's face was full of disdain. He directly raised his hand, and with a swoosh, an extremely violent and vast force instantly blasted forward. In an instant, the demonic beasts that had leaped into the air, and were spitting their breaths in this direction, seemed to have suffered a terrifying attack. They instantly shrieked in midair, and were reduced to ashes in an instant. Such a terrible attack stunned the group of people from the high-rank continents who were lying on the ground. Eldest Miss. They looked at Emo Zhuling in front of them in shock, or rather, the person who was possessed by Emo Zhuling, with an indescribable look of disbelief on his face. How did the eldest miss appear in this virtual mirror array? Once the mirror array was activated, it would be sealed, and no one would be able to enter again. Furthermore, Emo Zhuling had clearly entered with his consciousness. He was currently possessing one of them. This kind of method made everyone extremely shocked. Furthermore, the attack that Emo Zhuling had just unleashed was exceptionally terrifying. Just how powerful was Emo Zhuling's attack to be able to kill so many demonic beasts in one blow? After all, the combined might of those demon beasts was sufficient to instantly kill an Exalt Realm expert. However, Emo Zhuling easily shattered this force and killed all the demonic beasts, leaving them with no chance to resist. Could it be that Emo Zhuling's strength had already reached the peak of the Honorable Realm? The peak of the Purple Honorable Realm? But he had never heard that young Mrs. Strength had increased to such a level. If so, wouldn't the Star Alliance be shocked? After all, the eldest miss was the same as them, a member of the younger generation. Among the experts of their generation, no one had been able to break through to the Honorable Realm, let alone the Purple Honorable Realm. While everyone was thinking, Emo Zhuling had already raised his hand and retracted his power. He snorted coldly as he looked at them. Naturally, her current power did not completely come from herself, but was the result of her power being enveloped by the black fog. Chapter 28:11. A bunch of trash. I asked you to deal with the people from the 7 absolutes of true yin, but you almost got yourselves killed. Emo Zhuling's eyes were cold. If she had come a little later, these people would have all been thrown out. A bunch of trash. They couldn't even do such a small thing. If they let her painstaking efforts go to waste, she would skin them alive. The people from the high-level continents did not dare to refute. They had been frightened by Emo Juling's strength. The other party's strength was actually so strong. Not only that, entering the mirror array was like entering an uninhabited place. Everyone was shocked and did not dare to say a word. They hurriedly got up from the ground and kowtowed to Emo Juling, begging for forgiveness. Emo Juling's eyes were cold, but he did not pay attention to them. There was no point in arguing with a bunch of useless trash. Their only purpose was to stay in the mirror array, so that she could torture Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Let's go. Emo Juling sneered. Let's go meet the people from the 7 Absolutes of True Yen. At this point she sneered. 7 Absolutes of True Yen? What a big name. Unfortunately, after today, she would turn them into the 7 Absolutes of True Yen. As Emo Juling said this, he immediately rushed forward. With her strength, which was enveloped by the black fog, this mystic realm formed by the virtual mirror array was no threat to her. It was easy to find the whereabouts of Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Just as Emo Juling led the people from the high-level continents to search for Su Xiaoxiao and the others, thud. In another part of the virtual mystic realm, a small figure fell to the ground. Ouch! Luo Qingtong called out, but what came out of her mouth was a soft and adorable moan. Meow! She hurriedly got up from the ground with a head full of black lines. However, just as she took a step forward, she lost her balance and fell to the ground with a thud. That's right, Luo Qingtong turned into a cat, and a little white cat. This cat was none other than Xiao Tuanzi. Luo Qingtong had asked if it could bring her into the mirror array. This fellow said it could. However, because it did not have enough energy, it could only let her enter by possessing its body. That was not all. Luo Qingtong had asked if it could change its appearance. Because the way it hopped around, she really couldn't accept it. Furthermore, if it went in looking like this, what if someone remembered its face? It would be exposed. However, this guy replied that he could, and in the end, he turned into a cat. Damn it, it was even worse than Tuanzi's image. At least it didn't need to learn how to walk. Luo Qingtong looked gloomy. She got up from the ground and walked out, stumbling and tripping from time to time. She looked as if she was drunk. Luckily, Luo Qingtong was very adaptable and learned how to walk in a short while. However, her walking posture was still not very good. Looking at her crooked walking posture, Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. Forget it, she was only going to be a cat for a while. So be it if she walked ugly. Anyway, no one would know it was her. Of course, Luo Qingtong would never tell anyone that she had turned into a cat. Whoosh. Luo Qingtong walked with her crooked cat steps towards the front of the virtual mystic realm. Chapter 28:12. At this moment, Emo Juling and a group of people from the high-level continent appeared at the entrance of a valley. Humph. Emo Juling sneered as she looked at the ring-shaped valley in front of her. Luo Qingtong's lackeys are quite capable. They have almost found the location of the treasure. This secret realm in the virtual mirror array was meant for Su Xiaoxiao, and the rest to compete with the people from the high-level continent to obtain the treasure. The treasure was located in this ring-shaped valley. Emo Juling led the people from the high-level continent to explore the virtual secret realm, as if there was no one around. Soon they had explored almost all the scenes in the secret realm. Naturally, she knew that the treasure was in this valley. However, Su Xiaoxiao and the rest were also in this valley. This made her very angry. If she had not appeared in time, her people would have been kicked out of the virtual secret realm. However, Su Xiaoxiao and the rest had advanced all the way and actually found this valley. When she could not find them outside, she already knew that they had probably found the location of the treasure. It was really infuriating. The people on her side were all trash, but Luo Qingtong's subordinates were so capable. This made Emo Juling very depressed and gritted her teeth. Her heart was filled with jealousy. She could not be compared to Luo Qingtong to be able to obtain that man's love. At this moment, that man's lackeys were all stronger than her people. Bang! Emo Juling's attack landed on the ground in front of her with a loud boom. Her voice was ice cold. Surround this valley. You guys follow me in. She wanted to see where Luo Qingtong's lackeys could escape to if she blocked this valley. So what if they were capable? They would definitely not be able to escape this time after encountering her. Emo Zhuling's words left his mouth. The group of people from the high-ranked continents did not dare to refute him. They hurriedly blocked the entrance to the valley. At the same time, the remaining people all followed her and flew forward, searching for the whereabouts of Su Xiaoxiao and the others. On the other side of the virtual mystic realm, Luo Qingtong's body adapted to the distorted cat steps and skimmed through the virtual mystic realm. She was similar to Emo Zhuling. Inside the illusory mirror array, there was almost no obstruction, because her soul was attached to Xiao Tuanzi. The latter was a sector beast. In this virtual mirror array world, it was completely unimpeded and unaffected. This was its instinct as a sector beast, and it had nothing to do with its power. Only an extremely powerful treasure would be able to stop it from wreaking havoc in this place. However, this virtual mirror array was only a treasure of the Star Alliance. How could it have such an ability? Therefore, Luo Qingtong, who was attached to Xiao Tuanzi's body, was not restricted by the power of the mirror array at all. She was able to come and go without any hindrance. Her power was no longer restricted by her physical body. Instead, she had recovered to her previous strength, which was the power of a level 9 purple elder. Not only that, Luo Qingtong smiled as she looked at the 2 blood-red bracelets on her 2 small fleshy paws. These 2 blood-red bracelets had followed her into this virtual mirror array when her soul had gone out of her body. Chapter 28:13. Translations. This was the first time that Luo Qingtong had learned that weapons also had spiritual bodies. Did these 2 bracelets already have souls like humans? However, when Luo Qingtong tried to summon the life and death sword, she found that this sword, which was connected to her soul, did not appear beside her. It was clear that only the 2 evil blood bracelets had followed her into this illusory mirror array. Thinking that the life and death yin-yang sword was only a semi-godly weapon, and needed to find the imprint of God to transform into a godly weapon, Luo Qingtong could roughly guess why it couldn't appear here with her soul. Perhaps only weapons at the divine weapon level and above could form a soul and have an out-of-body experience with her. However, the evil blood bracelets had been severely damaged, and their spiritual bodies had not moved at all. Obviously, their spiritual intelligence and instinctive consciousness had either been destroyed or was in a deep sleep to repair itself. Therefore, even though their spiritual bodies had left their bodies and followed Luo Qingtong into this virtual mirror array, there was no movement at all. However, Luo Qingtong could feel that if she used the spiritual bodies of the evil blood bracelets in this mirror array, she would not be restricted by the lack of power of the evil blood bracelets. This principle was similar to how Luo Qingtong had recovered her original strength of the 9th level purple venerable realm after leaving her body. Because her soul was in an out-of-body state here, her strength was the strongest she had ever been. However, due to the limitations of this virtual mirror array, Luo Qingtong could not exert power beyond the limits of what the mirror array could withstand. Otherwise, the mirror array would collapse. The reason was very simple. Because this was a virtual illusion, all the attacks here were formed by the power of the mirror array. Including the power that Luo Qingtong's soul displayed, it was the same. Therefore, once she exerted power beyond the limits of the mirror array, the power within the mirror array would not be able to manifest itself. Naturally, the entire mirror array would collapse. Luo Qingtong estimated that the maximum limit of this mirror array was at the peak of the human martial arts realm. If it exceeded this limit, it would not be able to withstand it and would collapse immediately. It seemed that this mirror array was indeed a treasure to the people of the Star Alliance. No wonder they valued it so much. After all, the power of the peak of the human martial arts realm was very rare even in a 6-star domain, let alone a 9-star domain. This virtual mirror array was considered a very rare treasure to be able to withstand this level of power. It was even more precious to the people of the Star Alliance. With this thought in mind, Luo Qingtong immediately flew forward. Her eyes flickered with red light. This was a skill of her soul. When her soul left her body, her blood eyes followed it. Her blood eyes scanned the surroundings. Wherever the red light passed, the scenes of the virtual mirror array became lines of power in her eyes. She was not at all confused by the scenes of the illusions. Because the scenes of the illusions whether they were mountains, lakes, forests or not, were all formed to form the power of the mirror array. At this moment, there was nowhere to hide in Luo Qingtong's bloody eyes. Chapter 28:14. That was because they came in physically. The images in this virtual mirror array would not disappear in Luo Qingtong's bloody eyes like the other illusions. Therefore, they could quickly follow the traces and find where they were. At this moment, in the valley, Su Xiaoxiao, Ling Tianhan, and the others were dividing up their work and rushing toward the place in the valley where they thought there might be treasures. Bang! An extremely ferocious bear-shaped demonic beast rushed toward Su Xiaoxiao and the others, roaring fiercely. Then with a boom, its 4 iron-like claws drew out the power of the gold attribute in mid-air. The demonic beasts transformed by the mirror array were all the demonic beasts that had appeared in the secret realm explored by the Star Alliance. Their strength, level, and skill attributes were all based on the appearance of the demonic beasts that had appeared when the secret realm was first explored. With the adjustment and enhancement of the mirror array's power, they were exceptionally ferocious and powerful. The people from the high-level continents were almost blown away as soon as they entered. However, in the face of Su Xiaoxiao and the others, the attacks of the demonic beasts were neutralized by their tacit cooperation. Flying flowers in the sky. Su Xiaoxiao's figure flashed rapidly under the cover of Yuan Hu and the others. Her 5 fingers were constantly dancing. In an instant, according to the strength, level, and power attributes of the demonic beasts in front of her, she formulated the corresponding medicinal liquid that could neutralize their power attributes. In an instant, the medicinal liquid bottle in her hand fluttered out like flying flowers. The extremely gorgeous, colorful medicinal liquid was like a flower blooming in mid-air. Suddenly, it exploded in the middle of the demonic beasts. The medicinal liquid mist diffused all over the sky. In an instant, the attacks directed at Su Xiaoxiao, Ling Tianhan, and the others were weakened. Yuan Hu roared fiercely. His left foot stomped on the ground, and he met the attack of the bear-shaped demonic beast head-on. The petrification soul imprint on his body flickered with a light that was constantly changing between hard and soft. It forcibly blocked the attacks of the demonic beasts that had been weakened by Su Xiaoxiao. As for Ling Tianhan, Ling Yu, Sima Ju, Ling Tianchen, and Chu Wenhao, their bodies were as fast as lightning. The long sword was cold, the purple sky silk danced, and the black poisonous fog drifted. Water and lightning soul seals instantly poured out. In the blink of an eye, the bear-shaped demonic beasts in front of him were killed. Bang! While Ling Tianhan and the others were killing those demonic beasts, Yuan Hu was smashed to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. Oh my god, the strength of these demonic beasts is much stronger than the previous demonic beasts. He crawled up from the ground, ignoring the injuries on his body. He did not care that a bear-shaped demonic beast was glaring at him after being killed by Ling Tianhan and the others. The pair of sharp claws that were as sharp as steel almost pierced his heart. If Ling Tianhan and the others had been a little slower. However, Yuan Hu had long been used to cooperating with them. He was not afraid of any accidents. It was not as if they had not encountered more dangerous situations in the past. Chapter 28:15. For Yuan Hu, Su Xiaoxiao and Ling Tianhan were companions that he could entrust his life to. And for Su Xiaoxiao and the others, he was also a shield that they could entrust their lives to. Ling Tianhan and the others never considered defense when they attacked, because Yuan Hu was there to protect them. Bah! It hurt so much. Xiaoxiao, I'm so badly hurt this time. I need 2 bottles of spirit consolidating liquid to heal. Yuan Hu covered his chest and ran to Su Xiaoxiao with an injured face. He asked her for the medicine with a pitiful look. The spirit consolidating liquid was refined by Su Xiaoxiao. It could help warriors and soul practitioners absorb spiritual qi and melt elemental power quickly. Since she could make the liquid that disintegrated and melted the elemental power of warriors and soul practitioners, she could also make the liquid that could speed up their integration and improvement. Yuan Hu and the others relied on her liquid to improve their strength by leaps and bounds, but their foundation was still stable, and their strength was not insufficient. Their strength that surpassed their peers and was almost invincible was all because of the liquid that Su Xiaoxiao gave them. At this moment, as soon as Yuan Hu spoke, a purple light blasted over. It was Ling Yu, who heard his shameless words. She raised her hand and pulled the heavenly purple sash over. You bastard, do you have any shame? You want 2 bottles of spirit consolidating liquid for such a small injury? Last time you were more seriously injured, but you were still alive and kicking. This time you want to cheat Xiao Xiao of her spirit consolidating liquid. She can only refine 2 bottles a month. Last time, she was cheated by you. Come here, I'll beat you to death. Hey hey hey. Seeing Ling Yu's heavenly purple sash coming over, Yuan Hu immediately ran away. Damn it, woman, you're burning the bridge after using me? I'm still injured. Hey hey hey, where are you going with the sash? Damn it. Are you trying to end my bloodline? Ah, Tianhan, help. The 2 of them chased each other, but Ling Tianhan, Ling Tianchen, and the others just smiled and ignored them. They cleaned up the carcasses of the bear-shaped demonic beasts and prepared to continue their journey. However, right at this moment, Sima Ju's expression changed. The black poison in his body rushed out in an instant and blasted in front of him. In an instant, the fierce and terrifying poison evaporated in the air with a sizzling sound, drawing a line in the air as if a sharp blade had cut through it. If this poison attack landed on a human body, it would be able to melt an ordinary peak paragon into a puddle of rotten blood. However, at this moment, Sima Ju's attack was caught by a hand. Humph, as expected of Luo Qingtong's dog, its nose is so sharp. Mo Zhuling's voice was cold. He appeared in front of Su Xiaoxiao and the others with a group of people from the high-class continents and surrounded them. Sima Ju had an innate poison body, and the poison mist in his body was dispersed in the air. It was easy for him to sense that something was amiss in his surroundings. Earlier, he had sensed Mo Zhuling and the others' movement in the air and discovered their tracks. It's you guys. When Sima Ju made his move, Ling Tianhan and the rest quickly gathered together. Ling Yuer and Yuan Hu, who were in the middle of a chase, also rushed over. Chapter 28:16. You're not Zhu Yujia. They looked at Mo Zhuling seriously. He was definitely not Zhu Yujia. Zhu Yujia was the name of the person who had been possessed by Mo Zhuling. The latter had already fainted when Mo Zhuling had possessed him. The one controlling his body was Mo Zhuling. I'm definitely not Zhu Yujia. Mo Zhuling laughed coldly. She didn't try to hide it in front of Yuan Hu and the others. After they left today, they wouldn't be able to reveal her identity. She wouldn't give them the chance. Since you're so smart, why don't you guess who I am? Mo Zhuling's face was contented and proud, like a cat playing with a mouse. She wasn't afraid that Yuan Hu and the others would escape. With the power of the black mist, she could completely seal the space within the virtual mirror array. Su Xiaoxiao and the others could enter, but they wouldn't be able to leave. As he spoke, Mo Zhuling flicked his sleeve and easily crushed the black mist that Sima Ju had just released. Pfft. The moment the mist was crushed, Sima Ju's face paled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Mo Zhuling had used the connection between the poisonous mist and his body to injure his heart meridian. You, Ling Tianhan and the others were shocked and angry. They gathered around Sima Ju. Iju, how are you? I'm fine. Sima Ju fiercely wiped the blood from his lips and endured the pain of his heart being crushed. He didn't make a sound. Humph, you're a tough nut to crack. Mo Zhuling laughed coldly. But it's okay, we have time. Let's play slowly. Her face was cold and vicious, and against that of a person from a high-class continent, it was strange and twisted. Su Xiaoxiao had already pulled out a bottle of pills for Sima Ju. This medicinal pill was none other than what Luo Qingtong had left for them. It was extremely useful for treating serious injuries. Su Xiaoxiao and the others were never willing to waste the things given by Luo Qingtong. Therefore, until now they still had a lot of medicinal pills left by Luo Qingtong, which came in handy at this moment. Who are you? How do you know our boss's name? They looked at Mo Zhuling with heavy expressions. The latter was obviously here for Luo Qingtong. But besides the people of True Spill Continent, Luo Qingtong's name was only known to the high-level members of the Star Alliance. However, if those people wanted to harm them, they wouldn't have waited until now, and they wouldn't have done it in the virtual mirror array. Who were they? Take a guess. If you're right, I might be able to give you a quick and painless process. Emo Zhuling looked pleased. She very much enjoyed the feeling of playing with people in the palm of her hand. In particular, these people were Luo Qingtong's trusted aides. Perhaps they were people that she cared about very much. In her heart, she felt even more comfortable. However, just as her voice sounded, Ling Yuer's voice suddenly sounded. Humph. She coldly sneered. Why do we have to guess? Someone like you who hides the head and shows the tail, and also hates our boss to the bone. It seems that you've been defeated by her. Since that's the case, what's there to guess? You're just a piece of trash who doesn't have the ability to take revenge on our boss, but instead came to vent her anger on us. If I knew your name, I would be afraid of dirtying my ears. Chapter 28:17. B***tch. What did you say? Emo Zhuling's expression was ferocious. The face of the person she possessed was twisted to the extreme. She hated it the most when people mentioned that she was not as good as Luo Qingtong, and that she had lost to Luo Qingtong. They both liked the same man, but she was beaten up like a dog, while Luo Qingtong was protected in the palm of that man's hand. Clearly, Luo Qingtong should be the one to enjoy such treatment. That was worse than death. Why was it her? That woman got everything she wanted, but in the end, one of her dogs was mocking her. Meanwhile, the black fog was also infuriated. Ling Yuer's words evoked the most unbearable memories in its heart. Used the most vicious and cruel methods to torture her. I want her to not even have the right to die. It roared in its heart, and its voice resounded in Emo Zhuling's mind. The latter's expression was sinister and fierce. Don't worry, even if you didn't say anything, I would still teach her a lesson. She dared to expose her wound and ruthlessly sprinkle salt on it. She would let the other party know what the consequences were. Do you have the same thoughts as her? Emo Zhuling's gaze was like a venomous snake's tongue as it licked Yuan Hu and the others' bodies. Seeing the disdainful expressions on their faces, her expression turned extremely cold. Good. You are indeed Luo Qingtong's dogs. Since that's the case, let me see how hard your bones are. As Emo Zhuling spoke, he raised his hand with a boom. The entire space in the valley was sealed in an instant. Yuan Hu and the others were completely trapped in this world. Originally, when they were in the virtual secret realm, the power of the virtual mirror array would immediately send them out once the damage exceeded the limits of what they could endure. But now, because of Emo Zhuling's power, the virtual mirror array could not detect their existence at all. It also could not detect the damage they had suffered. This way, no matter what kind of damage they suffered, even if their lives were threatened, the mirror array would not react at all. It was even more impossible to teleport them out. In other words, the area Yuan Hu and the others were in was completely under Emo Zhuling's control, and was no longer affected by the mirror array. What? The moment Emo Zhuling made his move, Yuan Hu and the others' expressions changed drastically. They looked at the person who had possessed Zhu Yujia's body. They didn't know who the other party was, to actually have such strength. The power of the mirror array was blocked by her. Haha. The expressions of Yuan Hu and the others changed dramatically, while the group of people from the advanced mainland opposite them were overjoyed. They laughed out loud and said, Haha, you guys didn't expect someone from the 7 absolutes of true yen, did you? How could young miss be so powerful? Moreover, I can enter the mirror array to deal with you. To tell you the truth, I didn't bring you into the mirror array to compete with me because I wanted to win against you. Of course, this is one of our goals, but it is not the main one. Our main goal is to get you in here and let young miss torture you. Then, you will be humiliated in front of all the people from the Star Alliance like a pack of dogs. Chapter 28:18. Haha. The group of people from the high-class continents didn't know why Emo Zhuling wanted to deal with the 7 absolutes of true yen. They also didn't know what kind of deep grudge he had with their boss, Luo Qingtong. Even the name of the boss of the 7 absolutes of true yen was Luo Qingtong. This was something they had only heard from Emo Zhuling now. Before this, the name of Luo Qingtong wasn't something that people like them could understand. Only the top people of the Star Alliance, the top management, were qualified to know about this name and Yi Qianxian. Apart from them, even the head of the most powerful force on the high-class continents didn't know about this. However, this didn't stop them from using this matter to curry favor with Mo Zhuling and attack Yuan Hu and the others. In their opinion, no matter how powerful Yuan Hu and the others' boss was, there was no way he could be compared to Mo Zhuling at this moment. The eldest Miss' strength was actually so tyrannical. Everyone in the Star Alliance had misjudged her. Previously, there were rumors that the eldest Miss was seriously injured and had become a cripple without any strength. This was simply nonsense. The eldest Miss was clearly so powerful that she was even more powerful than the top experts of the Star Alliance. Otherwise, how could she enter this mirror array without the Star Alliance's elders noticing? The group of people could see that Mo Zhuling hated Luo Qingtong to the bone. They immediately belittled and humiliated Yuan Hu and the others even more. Hearing their words, Yuan Hu and the others' eyes instantly turned red. So it was you, Mo Zhuling. They looked at the person possessed by Mo Zhuling. So it was him. No wonder he hated their boss so much and wanted to deal with them at all costs. So it was this woman. Ling Yuer looked at Mo Zhuling and said coldly, "I was right. Mo Zhuling, you were defeated by our boss. Because you coveted our boss's man, you were beaten into a pile of meat paste. What? Now that you've recovered, you want to deal with us? Tsk. Even if you kill us, you can't erase the fact that you can't compare to our boss." "That's right." Yuan Hu's voice rang out with a sneer. "For a woman like you, no matter how powerful you become, our eldest brother's husband won't take a second look at you. Do you think that if you kill us, no one will know that your women are promiscuous and shameless? I've never seen such a shameless woman like you. You coveted someone else's man, and you still have the face to go against our boss. Shut up, all of you." Mo Zhuling was so angry that he was trembling all over. The two most shameful things in her life had been exposed by Yuan Hu and the others. Their wanton ridicule made her so ashamed that she wanted to go crazy. Bang! She shot out wildly from all over her body. In an instant, the group of people from the high-ranked continent who had revealed her identity, as well as Yuan Hu and the others, were all sent flying. Boom! Yuan Hu and the others smashed into the ground and instantly spat out a mouthful of blood. The qi in their bodies became chaotic in an instant. Mo Zhuling had obtained the power of the Black Fog. In this virtual secret realm, no one could stop him. Su Xiaoxiao's medicinal liquid attack could not dissolve her spiritual qi attribute power at all. Yuan Hu wanted to block her power, but he was also sent flying. Ling Tianhan, Ling Yuer, and the others behind him were also sent flying while spitting out blood. The people from the high-ranked continent beside Mo Zhuling were even worse off. Chapter 28:19. So what if I like that man? If it weren't for that bitch Luo Qingtong, he would have taken a liking to me. In this star region, I'm the only one with the highest status. I'm worthy of him. But it's your bitch boss's existence that ruined everything for me." Mo Zhuling's expression was cold. She looked at Yuan Hu and the others. Her aura was as terrifying as a ghost. "Don't try to provoke me on purpose. You'll die. Let me tell you, even if I want you to die, I'll make you lose face in front of all the Star Alliance members. I'll also trample Luo Qingtong under my feet, and let you die miserably in front of her. Now I'll let you live well. What do you think if I let you have a taste of what I've been through? Don't worry, I don't have the strength of that woman from Tiandu. I can't protect your hearts and veins. I can crush all your bones and flesh and still keep you alive. But I can protect your internal organs." As Mo Zhuling said this, she laughed sinisterly. "What do you think? I'll crush all your bones and flesh and then restore you. Then I'll crush all of you and restore you. How long can you hold on without begging for mercy?" At this point, she suddenly shouted coldly, "Do it! Surround them and break their bones, bit by bit. Break them all. Break them bit by bit, one by one. Do you hear me? Then crush their flesh and blood into mush. I don't believe that they can still hold on and say that Luo Qingtong is good. I want them to shout that Luo Qingtong is a bitch, a trash, a bitch." Before she could finish her sentence, Ling Tianhan and the others had already spat at her. Bitch, if you want to hear it, we'll tell you. Trash bitch, idiot bastard. I even gave you one as a gift. Don't be too grateful to me. Yuan Hu spat out a mouthful of blood. He had suffered the heaviest attack. At this moment, Mo Zhuling's attacks had left wounds all over his body formed by the petrification soul seal. Every single one of them came out of his body, and he could almost see the scene behind him. Ling Tianhan and the others behind him were not much better off. But whether it was him, Ling Tianhan, or the others, none of them cried out in pain. They looked coldly at the arrogant Mo Zhuling, and sneered contemptuously. He wanted them to lose face in front of the entire Star Alliance, humiliate and insult boss. Mo Zhuling was overthinking things. Even if they were to die, they would not let her have her way. They were born as boss's sword and shield. Even if they died, they would protect her honor and dignity. Mo Zhuling could not force them to do anything. At this thought, Yuan Hu and the others made a disdainful gesture at her. This hand gesture was exactly what they had seen Luo Qingtong make before. Now, they were using it to express their contempt and disdain for Mo Zhuling. Swoosh! The group of people raised their thumbs in unison, and then pointed downwards. Chapter 28:20. Trash. Their gazes were indescribably unyielding. Then with a boom, Ling Tianhan, Yuan Hu, and the rest's bodies rapidly expanded. Bastards! Mo Zhuling's face was filled with rage. These people wanted to self-destruct. She would never allow it. She had not tortured them yet. She had not let the Star Alliance members see their miserable state, and let them call Luo Qingtong a B***TCH in front of so many Star Alliance members. She had not let Luo Qingtong see them in such a state and be heartbroken. How could she let them die like this? Black fog, she shouted. In an instant, the power of the black fog was about to move. However, at this moment, a milky white, furry figure shot in from the outside. With a swoosh, Luo Qingtong's foot stepped heavily on Ling Tianqin's shoulder, and then she jumped up and down. In an instant, the power from her body surged into their bodies, suppressing the power that was about to explode within their bodies. Meow. Damn, just a little bit more. Luo Qingtong heaved a sigh of relief. She had just arrived at this valley and felt that something was wrong. Then, she saw Ling Tianhan and the rest about to self-destruct. Were these guys stupid? Luo Qingtong's throat was choked. She could not tell if she was more touched or angry. She wanted to use her claws to slap Ling Tianhan, and the rest awake. In fact, she did so. After suppressing the power of Ling Tianhan and the rest's self-destruction, she used her claws to slap their faces. Each and every one of them was so worrisome. Why did they self-destruct? Did they not know the meaning of where there is life, there is hope? If they self-destructed, where was she going to find a group of people like them to train? Did they think that she would bring anyone along and train them so carefully? Did she think that anyone would have the patience to help them increase their strength and plan? These guys were infuriating her. They had learned all of her decisiveness and ruthlessness. If they were so cruel to themselves, why didn't they learn from her cunning? These bastards. Luo Qingtong was anxious and angry, but she also knew that Ling Tianhan and the others did not want to be controlled by others. They did not want her reputation to be damaged. These guys were really stupid to the extreme, but also pure to the extreme. Luo Qingtong really couldn't scold or hit them. She could only use the soft soles of her transformed feet to fiercely slap them. For Ling Tianhan and the others, this kind of strength was not even enough to scratch an itch. However, as Luo Qingtong's power entered their bodies, they could feel that the power in their bodies had become purer and more integrated. Not only that, they could vaguely feel that the pressure and seal from Mo Zhuling's power had actually loosened. What was going on? Their eyes widened as they stared at the little white cat in front of them. They had no idea what was going on. Where did this little white cat come from? Why did it suddenly run out to save them? Moreover, its power was actually able to break through the space sealed by Mo Zhuling. Since when was a cat so powerful? As the group looked at each other, the faces of Mo Zhuling and the rest changed drastically. Chapter 28:21. For this little white cat to appear here. And looking at the expressions of Ling Tianhan and the others, it was obvious that they did not recognize it. Could it be that there was some kind of restriction in the depths of the mirror array that was triggered after she sealed the space? Now that it had come out, was it trying to get everything back on track? If that wasn't the case, how could they explain the origin of the white cat? Those old farts are indeed so concerned about these Luo Qingtong dogs. There's actually such a restriction in the mirror array, and I didn't even know about it. Mo Zhuling's expression was furious. In her opinion, even as the young mistress of the Star Alliance, she didn't know that there was such a restriction in the mirror array. Since the other party had come out at this time, it was obvious that the top fighters of the Star Alliance had been triggered when they discovered the abnormality in Ling Tianhan and the others. This restriction was probably a secret of the mirror array that couldn't be triggered easily. And now, those powerful fighters of the Star Alliance had actually triggered this power for Ling Tianhan and the others. Who knew what price they had paid? These old farts were simply detestable. Just as Mo Zhuling was thinking this, Ling Tianhan and the others also thought of this. Instantly, they couldn't care about anything else. They immediately stood up and said to each other, "Let's go." At this moment, they already had a trace of the little white cat's power in their bodies. Breaking through the space sealed by Mo Zhuling wasn't a problem at all. Once they were outside, they would definitely reveal what Mo Zhuling had done. Let's see what she would do then. Since this woman needed the cover of the virtual mirror array to attack them, it meant that her true strength wasn't enough to fight against the powerful fighters of the Star Alliance. Then they would definitely make her pay the price. With this thought in mind, the group immediately tried to break through the array. As long as they could leave the area enveloped by Mo Zhuling's power, the injuries in their bodies would allow them to leave the virtual mirror array immediately. Then, even if Mo Zhuling wanted to stop them, he wouldn't be able to. Just as Yuan Hu and the others were trying to break through the array, Mo Zhuling's expression suddenly changed. "Stop them." She waved her hand. In an instant, those people from the high-level mainland that she had sent flying were all sucked back. She injected a trace of power into their bodies, and then with a boom, she sent them flying towards Yuan Hu and the others. After obtaining her power, or rather, a trace of the Black Fog's power, they were able to move freely in this space. At the same time, their strength greatly increased, and they chased after Yuan Hu and the others. As for herself, she rushed towards Luo Qingtong. This little white cat was the biggest reason why Yuan Hu and the others were able to leave this place. If she didn't kill it, they still had a chance to leave this place. She had to kill it. Moreover, it was the restriction of the restrictions SSSSSST. S's. TT to kill. If she didn't kill it, the people of the Star Alliance would find out that she was the one who did it when they used the mirror array's power to investigate the matter. She would never allow that to happen. Boom. In an instant, Mo Zhuling's attack was like an avalanche rushing towards Luo Qingtong. Her power was wrapped in some black aura, which wrapped around her power. Chapter 28-22. At this moment, this power surged through the space of the mirror formation like 1,000 waves, 10,000 mountains stacked on top of each other. It swept madly towards Luo Qingtong. The entire space of the mirror formation trembled faintly, as if it couldn't withstand the power. It was obvious that the power of Mo Zhuling's attack had reached the limit of what the space of the mirror formation could withstand. The power of the peak of the human martial arts realm? Luo Qingtong looked at the aura of power emanating from Mo Zhuling. She didn't think that this was Mo Zhuling's own power. Otherwise, she wouldn't have needed to assassinate Xiao Xiao and the others in the mirror formation. It was obvious that she had borrowed something to reach this level of power. What was it? The red light in Luo Qingtong's eyes flickered faintly. Meow. Her blood-red eyes immediately pierced through the body of the person that Mo Zhuling had possessed. She immediately saw Mo Zhuling, who was shrouded in black mist. Was it this black mist? Luo Qingtong looked at the power of the black mist that was scattered around Mo Zhuling's soul. For some reason, she vaguely felt that the aura of the black mist was strangely familiar. Was the other party coming for her? Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. She had a feeling that the black mist was mixed up with Mo Zhuling because of her. And the other party was coming for her. Otherwise, they wouldn't have helped Mo Zhuling deal with Xiao Xiao and the others in the mirror formation. If the other party had other motives, they wouldn't have let Mo Zhuling deal with someone from a low-level continent. They wouldn't have inexplicably exposed themselves. Unless the other party had a grudge against her. And they couldn't wait for something to happen to Xiao Xiao and the others so that they could vent their anger. Luo Qingtong thought this and immediately meowed. Her forelimbs twisted like a cat as she rushed towards Mo Zhuling's attack. Speaking of which, Mo Zhuling was quite unlucky. If she were to fight against Luo Qingtong's real body, even if Luo Qingtong recovered her strength and used the power of the life and death yin-yang sword and the hegemonic fist of heaven and earth, she might not be able to do anything to her. However, this time, she was facing Luo Qingtong's soul. Not only that, the two souls from the evil blood bracelets had also come over. Most importantly, although the consciousness of the two evil blood bracelets had fallen silent, their spiritual bodies could still be used in the mirror array space. Moreover, it wasn't like the two original evil blood bracelets outside, which couldn't use its power due to lack of power. Instead, it coordinated with the power of Luo Qingtong's Heaven and Earth Tyrant Fist. This was because the mirror array was using the power of the mirror array. As long as the evil blood bracelets had this power, they could be materialized in the mirror array space. Therefore, when Mo Zhuling attacked, Luo Qingtong rushed forward with her twisted cat steps. Her small furry paw smashed towards the power of the attack. Heaven and Earth Tyrant Fist. Meow. Luo Qingtong's paw smashed heavily onto Mo Zhuling's attack. In an instant, the power of the mirror array was equally violent and terrifying. It had reached the limit of what the mirror array could produce. In an instant, it smashed Mo Zhuling's power to the extreme. Luo Qingtong's Heaven and Earth Tyrant Fist was incomparably domineering. It could crush people of the same level. Even people of the same level as her couldn't escape the fate of being crushed by the power of her Heaven and Earth Tyrant Fist. At this moment, the power wrapped in the black fog was the same. The power of the two collapsed in an instant. Chapter 28-23. With a whoosh, Mo Zhuling's eyes widened in disbelief as the sharp claws on Luo Qingtong's small, fleshy palm suddenly appeared. With a ripping sound, her claws struck Mo Zhuling and tore apart all the energy around her body. At the same time, those sharp claws also viciously scratched the face of the person that Mo Zhuling had possessed. Ah! Mo Zhuling suddenly screamed in agony. His entire body, along with that ball of black fog, was thrown out. She fell to the ground and felt a burst of moisture, and intense pain on her face. Immediately, she was greatly alarmed. She raised her hand and touched her own face. As she touched it, she realized that the face of the person that she had possessed was filled with scratches caused by sharp claws. Every line was clear and clear. The wounds were so deep that the bones could be seen. Under her touch, there was no doubt about it. Even though Mo Zhuling could not see the wounds on her face, he could feel the deep marks on her face and the blood on her hands. However, this was not the reason for her shock. Even though she had possessed the body of this person from the high-class mainland called Wuxia, her own soul had nothing to do with him. Logically speaking, even if he was severely injured or died, it would have nothing to do with her. She could easily extract her own soul and leave this body. As for his injuries, they were only his injuries. They could not harm her at all. However, at this moment, under the attack of that strange little white cat, Mo Zhuling actually felt an intense pain coming from his soul. This pain was as if this injury had been inflicted on her body. How could this be? Could it be that this little white cat's power could actually penetrate the body that she had possessed and hurt her? No, this was impossible. This was impossible. Mo Zhuling caressed his face. His expression was one of extreme panic and fear. She did not dare to imagine what it would be like if this injury had appeared on her body. However, the more she struggled to deny it, the more things developed in the direction that she did not want to see the most. The black fog in her body roared angrily. "Idiot, what are you still doing here? Quickly leave this place. There's something wrong with this little white cat. It can injure our souls. Leave this place immediately." At this point, there was a hint of pain in its voice. It was very obvious that the little white cat's attack had caused significant damage to it. The black fog had been too careless. It did not expect that such an unassuming white cat would have the power to injure its soul. After all, even if the other party was the restriction of the mirror array, it was not afraid. Hence, it did not use its full strength. It had intentionally suppressed its own power. How could it have known that it would be suppressed by the other party? If it had known that this would happen, it would not have given it the chance to injure its soul. If its soul was injured, its body would also be correspondingly. Damn it! What the hell was this thing? How could there be a power in this mirror array that could harm its soul? The black fog's heart was flustered and exasperated. However, it did not know that Luo Qingtong had also entered this place with the power of her soul. Soul against soul, naturally it could be injured. Chapter 28-24. What? Didn't you say that in this star domain, there was no power that could harm you? When the black fog had first appeared in front of her, it had been so arrogant. It had said that there was no power that could harm it, but now a cat was able to beat it to such a state. Emo Zhuling's heart was filled with anger and resentment. The black fog's heart was also filled with hostility. It looked at the little white cat who had leaped into the air and adjusted its direction, charging towards them once again. It shouted angrily at Emo Zhuling. If you want to die here, then you can continue to argue with me about this. Furthermore, this little white cat appeared in this mirror array. I want to ask you, why didn't you tell me that there was such a restrictive spell and power in this mirror array? You even wanted me to bring you in to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the rest. Are you trying to kill me on purpose so that you can steal my power? When it said this, it suddenly raised its pitch, making it seem like its anger was boundless and uncontrollable. Emo Zhuling could not continue speaking. She really did not know that there was such a restrictive spell in this mirror array, and that it could even harm the black fog. Who would have thought that there was such a strong and terrifying power hidden in this mirror array? If she had known, why would she have let the black fog bring her in, and set up a trap for Su Xiaoxiao and the rest? It was too late to say anything now. Emo Zhuling gritted his teeth fiercely in his heart. From her point of view, this must be the hidden trump card of those old farts in the Star Alliance. Even her father did not know about it. These old farts, did they have the intention to deal with her father right from the start? Otherwise, as the eldest young miss of the Star Alliance and the apple of her father's eye, how could she not know about this? Emo Zhuling's heart was filled with hatred, but he did not think that this little white cat could be transformed from a human, and an outsider at that. After all, the black fog's power was able to suppress the power that Sima Mei had planted in her body. It was definitely not ordinary, which was why it was able to bring her into this mirror array without making a sound. How could other people be able to do such a thing? Moreover, even if someone could do it, why would they turn into a cat? Therefore, she didn't think about it at all. She only thought that this little white cat was the restriction in the mirror array, a power that was hidden in the depths and unknown to others. This time, it was because of her interaction with the black fog that it woke up and came to deal with them. Chua. Seeing Luo Qingtong rushing towards them again, she didn't dare to delay any longer. She hurriedly retreated with a bloody face. As she retreated, the aura around her soared. It was obvious that she wanted to leave this body immediately. As long as she could withdraw from this body, she could immediately leave this place with the black fog, and return to her original body. However, just as the aura around her rose, Luo Qingtong's figure had already rushed in front of her with a swoosh. In fact, Luo Qingtong was not familiar with the cat's body. Otherwise, she wouldn't have lost control and rushed over. Now that she had rushed in front of Emo Zhuling, seeing the black aura around her rising, he knew that she wanted to leave this place. However, it was easier to invite the devil than to send it away. Emo Zhuling probably didn't understand this logic. She wanted to leave. Chapter 28-25. Luo Qingtong laughed coldly. She lifted her claws and hooked onto Emo Zhuling's aura, including that of the black fog. With a swoosh, Luo Qingtong pulled that ball of aura towards her. She wanted to see what this ball of black fog was. The soul aura of Mo Zhuling and the black fog was hooked by Luo Qingtong's claws. They were scared out of their wits. Especially the black fog. It didn't know how Luo Qingtong knew its and Mo Zhuling's exact location. One had to know that the aura that it and Mo Zhuling emitted was invisible and traceless in the eyes of others. Moreover, with its power as a cover, even the power of the mirror array couldn't detect its and Mo Zhuling's aura. This little white cat actually hooked them easily, and even pulled them in front of her. The black fog understood what it meant for the little white cat to be able to do this. It meant that the other party could easily see them. Not only that, but she also had the power to hurt them. This was even more shocking than when it was hurt by Luo Qingtong's power in the body of the possessed person. Because that could be explained as the little white cat hurting it through the possessed person. But at this moment, this little white cat clearly saw its traces. This was like seeing a ghost. How could there be such a power in this mirror array? One must know that its current power wasn't something that an ordinary artifact could deal with. The black fog was furious. It saw that its and Mo Zhuling's soul aura were about to be pulled to its front by the little white cat. If they fell into the other party's hands, it would be over. With this thought, it couldn't care less about anything else. With a boom, it exploded the part of its body that was hooked by Luo Qingtong's claws. It screamed miserably. In an instant, the entire mirror array space shook. The explosion of the black fog's aura was extremely powerful. It had completely exceeded the limits of the mirror array. In an instant, the entire mirror array space was filled with crackling sounds. Then the entire mirror array space was like a shattered water mirror. From the outside to the inside, it kept cracking and exploding. Boom boom boom. The entire mirror array space collapsed in an instant. And Luo Qingtong had already sensed it when the black fog made its move. She quickly dodged the attack caused by the explosion of the black fog's aura. She was about to grab them in her hands again, but unexpectedly, the mirror array space collapsed in an instant. Her gaze suddenly froze. Her body was uncontrollably affected by the ripples of power in the mirror array space. She paused for a moment. Using this moment, the black mist and Mo Zhuling's soul aura disappeared from her sight. TSK, this body is indeed not convenient at all. Luo Qingtong was depressed. If it was her own body, she probably wouldn't have been able to escape from Mo Zhuling and the black fog's aura. But then again, the black fog's aura was extremely powerful. If not for the fact that she could use the power of the evil blood bracelet in this mirror array space, she might not have been able to deal with it. Who exactly was it? Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. Chapter 28-26. In an instant, the people waiting for the result outside saw countless lights bursting out from the huge mirror array. Then, all of a sudden, the spiritual mirror of the mirror formation cracked open in front of them. In the blink of an eye, countless crisscrossing scars appeared on the spirit mirror, completely destroying the mirror array. What's going on? Everyone waiting for the result of the competition was shocked. They looked at the huge mirror array in front of them in shock. It was hard to imagine that it would break. What's going on? While everyone was shocked, the elders of the Star Alliance, who had come to witness and closely monitor the scene in the mirror array, suddenly jumped up. How is this possible? Why did the mirror array suddenly break? The Star Alliance elders were in disbelief. Because of the Shadow's power, they didn't know what happened in the mirror array at the end. They only knew that Su Xiaoxiao and the others disappeared at the last moment. But at that time, they had already entered the Treasure Valley. In that place, the mirror array's power was the strongest. It might interfere with their monitoring. Therefore, no one paid much attention to this situation. Now that they saw the spiritual mirror in the mirror array break, they knew that something terrible must have happened in the mirror array. That was why the mirror array's power was broken, and the spiritual mirror was destroyed. They didn't have time to feel sorry for the mirror array. The first thing they wanted to do was to save Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Otherwise, if something happened to them, they would be finished. However, just as they were thinking this, they saw a group of figures being thrown out of the mirror array. Bang! Su Xiaoxiao and the others were thrown to the ground. Instantly, Yuan Hu, who was at the bottom, screamed in pain and spat out a mouthful of blood. The bodies of several people all smashed into him. He was seriously injured, so he couldn't bear it. When his voice sounded, Su Xiaoxiao and the others hurriedly got up from his body. Yuanhu, are you okay? Ling Yuer raised her hand and pulled Yuanhu up from the ground. I'll be fine if you eat less. Yuanhu's face was filled with grief. Ling Yuer had smashed right into his body. Aren't you afraid of dying of obesity after eating so much? Ling Yuer sneered and slapped him with the back of her hand. In an instant, Yuanhu screamed, I'm seriously injured. You barbaric woman, you can't wait for me to die, can you? He screamed. I won't die. Ling Yuer snorted coldly. He still had the energy and strength to complain that she had eaten too much. How could anything happen to him? However, Ling Yuer had used 90% of her strength when she smacked him. Serves him right. He might as well die from the pain. Ling Yuer's voice sounded out. Yuanhu still wanted to say something, but Su Xiaoxiao had already stuffed his mouth with pills and medicinal liquid. That's enough. You should stop talking. Your blood is almost dry. Do you really want to die? The group of people had just run in a hurry and did not have time to eat the medicinal pills. Moreover, in the case of serious injuries, the speed of leaving the mirror array was the fastest, so none of them ate. Even Yuanhu, who was the most seriously injured, did not eat. At this moment, Su Xiaoxiao fed the medicinal liquid and medicinal pills into Yuanhu's mouth. Each of them also ate the medicinal pills. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded not far away. Chapter 28-27. His words were obviously filled with disbelief and ecstasy. Su Xiaoxiao and the others frowned and raised their heads to look in the direction of the voice. In the direction of the supporters of the advanced continent, there was a man who clearly came from the same place as them. At this moment, he was looking in their direction with a look of ecstasy. Haha, you actually lost. You're from the 7 unique true yen. Why are you still so arrogant? Ha! The man, who was obviously with the group of people from the advanced continents, looked at the injuries on Su Xiaoxiao and the others, and then looked at their hands. There were no traces of treasures, and he was very pleased with himself. Zhu Yujie and the others were right. Eldest Miss would indeed help them win. Wasn't this the exact situation? As for the sudden breaking of the mirror array, the man didn't care. After all, whatever happened to the mirror array was the mirror array's business. It could only be said that Mo Zhuling had used some kind of method to teach Su Xiaoxiao and the others a lesson, and finally caused the mirror array to break. To be honest, if the mirror array hadn't been broken, the man might not have been sure that Su Xiaoxiao and the others had lost. Now that the mirror array was broken, it proved that Mo Zhuling had indeed tampered with it. He praised Mo Zhuling's remarkable ability to tamper with the mirror array in front of so many elders of the Star Alliance in his heart. He looked at Su Xiaoxiao and the others complacently and said, Since you've lost, quickly fulfill your promise. Haha. The 7 unique true yen have become the 7 cripples of true yen. We're really lucky to have a good eye. As soon as he said that, the onlookers immediately looked at Su Xiaoxiao and the others. No way. The 7 unique true yen people actually lost. The group of people from the advanced continents was unwilling to accept this. They had come to see Su Xiaoxiao and the others win. But now Su Xiaoxiao and the others were all injured. Furthermore, the crowd were all able to clearly see how serious the injuries on their bodies were when they came out earlier. If this injury was indeed caused by the mirror formation, then the 7 ultimates of true yen had undoubtedly lost. Because the people from the advanced continents hadn't appeared yet. Obviously, they were the ones who had lasted until the end. Perhaps they had even obtained the treasures. The crowd thought and immediately looked at Su Xiaoxiao and the others. The latter and the others frowned and gloomily looked at the man who was looking at them complacently. Where did this idiot come from? Who told you that we've lost? Su Xiaoxiao raised her eyebrows and looked at the man from the advanced continent who stood out. The man's face had a sneer. What? Everyone around saw it. Are you 7 ultimates of true yen trying to renege on your debt? Or do you want to publicly tear up the agreement by relying on the protection of the Star Alliance elders? The elders of the Star Alliance is with us? That's right. As this man from the advanced continent spoke, the other people from the advanced continents who had heard the rumors that the 7 unique True Yen people had lost also hurried over. Ever since this group of people from the True Spill continent, especially the 7 unique True Yen people, had risen to prominence, they had lost a great deal of face. There weren't many who hadn't suffered a loss under the hands of the 7 unique True Yen people. Now that the people from the 7 unique True Yen people had unexpectedly lost the competition, everyone was celebrating. Chapter 28. You people from the 7 absolutes of True Yen are incomparably arrogant in the Star Alliance Academy. Didn't you say that you had to admit defeat? What? Now that it's your turn, you don't want to admit defeat? The group of people from the high-rank continents sneered. The people from the high-rank continents gathered from all directions, confronting Su Xiaoxiao and the others. In short, if the elders of the Star Alliance can't handle this impartially, then we from the high-rank continents will never agree. That's right, we will never agree. The group of people from the high-rank continents exclaimed. They wanted the people of the True Spill continent to suffer. Who told the people from the 7 absolutes of True Yen to be so hateful? They were simply challenging their authority. If they didn't suppress the other party, then these people from the high-rank continents would have no face left. Su Xiaoxiao and the others coldly looked at these people. As for the elders of the Star Alliance, they angrily rebuked. Nonsense! As for how to resolve this matter, we elders will naturally decide. What does this have to do with you? They naturally wouldn't allow Su Xiaoxiao and the others to suffer the slightest bit of harm. But these people from the high-rank continents simply didn't know what the consequences would be if something were to happen to Su Xiaoxiao and the others. They actually didn't want to give up. As the elders listened to their words, they wanted to slap them to death. At this time, the high-rank continent person who spoke first said in a deep voice, "Since the elders will decide impartially, then let's do it here. Then let us be convinced. Don't you think so?" He looked at the people around him, his face filled with indescribable pride. He changed the elders will decide to decide impartially. His goal was to force the elders to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Even if the elders wanted to protect Su Xiaoxiao and the others, for the sake of their face and credibility, it was impossible for them to not do anything. After all, we will only cripple their strength and won't take their lives. Elders, don't let us from the high-rank continents feel cold in our hearts, he gloomily said. And the people around him also echoed in the same way. With the passage of time, more and more people from the high-level continents joined his team, forming a considerable force. Seeing this, the elders of the Star Alliance were furious. These pig-like people. Originally, because of Yi Qianxian's status, it wasn't good to reveal it to the public. Moreover, it wasn't good to reveal his special status in the True Spill continent. Rather, it would be easy to provoke more disasters, especially disasters from foreign star regions. Therefore, they deliberately concealed Yi Qianxian's matter, and did not let more people know about it. But the result was that these pig-like people had joined forces to harm the people of True Spill continent. Did they think that after suppressing the people of True Spill continent, everything would be fine? Would he be able to continue to be high and mighty and live a carefree life? A bunch of idiots. They don't even know how they're going to die. While most of the Star Alliance elders were furious, some of them had a slight change in their eyes. Then, someone from that group of people spoke with an indifferent expression. In truth, what these people say isn't without reason. Since they are willing to accept their loss and also won't take their lives, then the rest will depend on what the people of the 7 absolutes of True Spill choose. Presumably, they don't want to disgrace that Sir's reputation. Don't you think so? As he spoke, he looked at Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Hearing this, the complexions of the Star Alliance elders suddenly changed. The other party's words were clearly telling Su Xiaoxiao and the others to cripple their own strength. What was going on with them? However, when they saw the person's face clearly, they immediately understood what was going on. It turned out that this person was from the Alliance Master's faction. Obviously, this person saw that Su Xiaoxiao and the others' lives wouldn't be harmed, so they took advantage of the situation to push the boat along. Chapter 28-29. It had to be known that when Yi Qianxian revealed his identity, the ones who suffered the heaviest losses were the people of the Alliance Masters faction. Because Mo Zhuling had offended the young emperor, it almost led to the destruction of the Star Alliance. Although Yi Qianxian didn't make a move in the end, the higher-ups of the Star Alliance were still scared out of their wits. Especially the higher-ups of the Star Alliance who were summoned to the starry skies outside of the True Spill continent by the emergency summons. After witnessing the strength and lineup of the people from Heaven Capital, they were even more frightened and terrified. Under such circumstances, the people of the Alliance Masters faction were naturally blamed, because this matter was caused by Mo Zhuling. And with the young emperor token given by Yi Qianxian in hand, the people of the Star Alliance who originally didn't get along with the Star Alliance's Alliance Master directly formed a faction to oppose the Star Alliance's Alliance Master. At this moment, the Star Alliance was ruled by two factions. The era where the Star Alliance's Alliance Master held absolute power no longer existed. The people of the Star Alliance's Alliance Masters faction were also hit hard. In the past, when they were in the Star Alliance, there was no one who disobeyed them. Now they had to tuck their tails between their legs and behave themselves. Especially when it came to major decisions in the Star Alliance, they couldn't interfere anymore. Because before, they almost caused the entire Star Alliance to be destroyed. Just based on this point alone, they were repeatedly refuted on major decisions. The people of the Star Alliance's Alliance Masters faction didn't dare to make a move against Elder Fong and the others who had the young emperor token of Heaven Capital. Naturally, they could only swallow their anger. But now, Su Xiaoxiao and the others were caught red-handed and made a mistake in the bet. A group of people from a high-ranked continent united to make trouble for the elders of the Star Alliance. This matter wasn't their fault. It was all the fault of these high-ranked continents. The people of the Star Alliance's Alliance Masters faction were naturally willing to go with the flow and deal with this matter. This way, even if the young emperor were to blame them in the future, they would have something to say. No one could blame them. At that time, he would just push these people from the high-ranked continents out as scapegoats. The elders of the Star Alliance leaders faction secretly changed their attitudes when they thought of this. When the other elders saw through their thoughts, their faces turned cold. Just as they were about to speak, Su Xiaoxiao's voice rang out. I just want to know, why are you so certain that we've lost? Shi Ling Tianhan and the others looked indifferent. They stood where they were originally standing, and did not even change their postures. They naturally noticed the change in the attitudes of the people from the advanced continents, and the elders of the Star Alliance. He didn't say anything because he wanted to see how many more people would jump out to see them suffer. From the looks of it, it was quite a lot. Su Xiaoxiao and Ling Tianhan sneered. They always knew that as boss's subordinates, they would inevitably be attacked by both open and covert attacks. They had always been very careful, and didn't give anyone the chance to plot against them. But this time, they were indeed caught off guard by the mirror array. Who knew that Mo Zhuling had a way to enter the mirror array, and was so strong inside? If it wasn't for the sudden appearance of the little white cat, they would have all suffered. Chapter 28-30. Thinking of this, Su Xiaoxiao said coldly, Is it because of our injuries, or because the mirror matrix is broken, or because… Mo Zhuling, Miss Mo, do you want to deal with us inside? Hearing Su Xiaoxiao's words, everyone's faces froze. What did she say? Miss Mo wanted to deal with them inside the mirror matrix? Was this true? Could it be that the injuries on their bodies were caused by eldest young miss? Everyone was shocked. In fact, they also found it strange that Su Xiaoxiao and the others were so embarrassed. After all, if those people from the advanced continent had the strength to injure Su Xiaoxiao and the others like this, there would be no need for them to compete for the treasure. They could directly crush Su Xiaoxiao and the others in the challenge tournament. They originally thought that Su Xiaoxiao and the others' injuries were caused by an accident in the mirror matrix when it was broken. Now, it seemed that there was a hidden story. Just as everyone's faces were filled with shock, the expression of the elder who spoke up for the people from the high-class continent suddenly changed. He scolded harshly, People of the 7 unique true yen, even if you don't want to lose your strength, You don't have to talk nonsense in public. Everyone knows that our miss was seriously injured before, and almost became a cripple. She is slowly recovering now. How could she enter the mirror matrix to deal with you? What's more, what kind of treasure is the mirror matrix? We have so many elders guarding this place. How could she enter without making a sound? You're talking nonsense. Hearing this elder's words, the person from the advanced continent who knew the truth and saw Su Xiaoxiao expose Mo Zhuling's matter to the public felt his heart skip a beat. He immediately said, "That's right. Su Xiaoxiao, in order to escape punishment, you people of the 7 unique true yin didn't fulfill the bet. How could you tell such a big lie? If Miss Mo was so powerful that she could deceive the elders of the Star Alliance and harm you, why did she need to enter the mirror matrix? She could have killed you directly outside. And she could have done it stealthily and without leaving any traces." His words instantly dispelled the doubts in the hearts of the people who had doubtful expressions on their faces. Yes, if Miss Mo was so powerful, why did she need to enter the mirror matrix to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others? But they didn't know that Mo Zhuling really had to enter the mirror matrix to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Without this layer of cover, she would not have dared to do anything to Su Xiaoxiao. Yi Qianqian's identity was the biggest deterrent. But only the elders of the Star Alliance knew about this. At this moment, the elders of the Star Alliance who knew about this all frowned. They had been sitting here all this time. If Mo Zhuling had really attacked Su Xiaoxiao and the others in the mirror matrix, there was no way they wouldn't know about it. Su Xiaoxiao's reason didn't hold water. And this matter involved Mo Zhuling, so they couldn't just agree with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. At this moment, the elders of the Star Alliance who didn't get along with the alliance leaders people wanted to ask Su Xiaoxiao and the others to change their explanation. This way, they could speak up for them. Chapter 28:31. In an instant, rays of light lit up, and with a boom, a group of people appeared in front of the crowd. These people were none other than the group of people from the advanced continent who had competed with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. And their leader was Zhu Yujia. Their bodies smashed violently in front of the crowd. Then, under the astonished gaze of the crowd, they stood up abruptly and rushed toward Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Kill! 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 Under the orders of Eldest Miss, we're going to kill all of you. Ha ha! People of the 7 absolutes of true yen, just wait for your death. The appearance of this group of people instantly shocked the crowd, especially the voices coming out of their mouths, the ferocious expressions on their faces, and the appearance that they had no consciousness and only knew how to kill. The people from the advanced continent, and the elder who had vowed that Su Xiaoxiao and the others were looking for excuses, and slandering them almost spat out blood. What's going on? The 2 of them screamed in disbelief. One of them really didn't know what was going on. The other knew what was going on, but he didn't know why Zhu Yujia and the others were so stupid. They actually wanted to kill Su Xiaoxiao and the others even when they were outside. Were these people crazy? There were so many people outside, and they wanted to kill Su Xiaoxiao and the others in front of so many people. Even if the elders of the Star Alliance weren't here, no one could cover up this matter. What was going on with Eldest Miss? How much did she want Su Xiaoxiao and the others to die? As for the elder who had reprimanded Su Xiaoxiao and the others, saying that their words were complete nonsense, his expression turned even uglier. He had just said that Su Xiaoxiao and the others were looking for excuses, but Zhu Yujia and the others came out to slap him in the face. And they were obviously under someone's control, and their strength had increased so much. They shouted the name of Eldest Miss, and no one would believe that it wasn't Mo Zhuling who did this. After all, Su Xiaoxiao and the others had left the mirror array for a long time. It was impossible for them to do anything to Zhu Yujia and the others. Even if they had acted before, what good would it do them? Did he use this to slander Mo Zhuling? However, Mo Zhuling's recovery was only known to high-level figures like them. Because they feared that this would arouse the dissatisfaction of the people of True Spill Continent, they didn't even announce this to the public. In other words, in the eyes of others, especially those of the True Spill Continent, Mo Zhuling was nothing but a cripple. He simply wasn't a threat. Why did they go through so much trouble to set up a trap to deal with Mo Zhuling? Not to mention, Zhu Yujie and the others were the ones who suggested this competition. Moreover, he even used the boss of the 7 absolutes of True Yen as a bait to force them to agree to the competition. In other words, even if this was a trap, it was set up by Zhu Yujie and the others. Now that he thought about it, wasn't it Mo Zhuling who had ordered them to do it? This idiot! The elder from the Alliance Masters faction was so angry that he almost had a heart attack. Because of Mo Zhuling's wrongdoings, they had been ostracized everywhere in the Star Alliance. Now that they had finally found some stability, they were slowly planning to regain their former status and identity. But Mo Zhuling was the one who did it. As soon as he woke up, he immediately created a mess for them. Chapter 2832. This elder of the Star Alliance's Alliance Masters faction was infuriated by Mo Zhuling's actions. Behind him, the people of the Star Alliance's Alliance Masters faction were also trembling with anger. They weren't angry because Mo Zhuling had dealt with the people of the True Spill continent. They were angry because she was stupid to the extreme. She had made a move but didn't know how to clean up the mess. She had let these people from a high-class continent jump out. However, they didn't know that when Mo Zhuling and the Black Fog left, they really did want to kill Zhu Yujie and the others. The trace of power that they had injected into Zhu Yujie and the others was a primer. After they left, it would immediately explode and kill Zhu Yujie and the others. However, Luo Qingtong had taken control of Zhu Yujie and the others first. With her blood-red eyes, she had cleared away the control that Mo Zhuling and the Black Fog had over Zhu Yujie and the others. This allowed them to maintain the increase in power and lose their minds, only knowing the feeling of slaughter. At the same time, it also prevented them from being controlled by Mo Zhuling and the Black Fog. It was also because of this that Luo Qingtong delayed the release of Zhu Yujie and the others. Otherwise, with the shattered scene of the mirror array, Zhu Yujie and the others would have been ejected from the mirror array space along with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. But it wasn't too late. Luo Qingtong coldly snorted. She stayed in a corner of the mirror array space, looking at the scene outside. The space of the mirror array space hadn't completely shattered. Luo Qingtong relied on Tuanzi's ability to find a place to stay. And because she was in the mirror array space, no one could discover her existence. At this moment, she was coldly looking at the people of the high-class continents. She saw the stunned expressions on Zhu Yujie and the others' faces after they appeared, as well as the elders of the Star Alliance's Alliance Masters faction. Deal with her people? Today, she would let them know what it meant to reap what they sowed. Including Mo Zhuling, everyone would have to pay the price. Mo Zhuling thought that everything would be fine after she escaped. She must be dreaming. Luo Qingtong sneered. At this moment, Zhu Yujie and the others outside had already been subdued by Su Xiaoxiao. In fact, if Su Xiaoxiao and the others hadn't been injured by Mo Zhuling's power mixed with the Black Fog, Zhu Yujie and the others wouldn't have been a match for them even if they were 10 times stronger. After they had subdued Zhu Yujie and the others, the latter had regained their consciousness. This was naturally Luo Qingtong's arrangement. She couldn't let Zhu Yujie and the others go out just to expose Mo Zhuling's identity. She also wanted them to testify about Mo Zhuling's plan. Since Mo Zhuling thought that his plan was flawless, she was going to expose him bit by bit. Let's see how long Mo Zhuling can hide with the Black Fog. Sooner or later, she would find out the identity of the other party and see who was secretly plotting against her. Luo Qingtong narrowed her eyes. After Zhu Yujie and the others regained their consciousness, they knew that they had been ordered by Mo Zhuling to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. They immediately cried bitterly and told her everything they knew. This included how Mo Zhuling was able to enter the mirror array to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Everyone present was stunned when they heard this. The elders of the Star Alliance who didn't belong to the Alliance Masters faction were enraged. There was no other reason. Mo Zhuling was able to enter the mirror array at will. Didn't this mean that the Alliance Master knew the secrets of the mirror array that they didn't know about? How could they not be enraged when they didn't know about this? Chapter 28:33. Wait. His expression was cold as he looked at Zhu Yujie and the others who were kneeling in front of the virtual mirror array. He coldly said, "Who can prove that they aren't making things up and trying to shirk responsibility? Everyone knows that my son has a grudge with the people of True Spill Continent. Can't they have attacked Su Xiaoxiao and the others, but were the ones who were attacked instead? Then they deliberately betrayed my Ling, and slandered her?" As soon as he said this, Zhu Yujie and the others were scared out of their wits. They quickly kowtowed and cried out that they were wronged, saying that they weren't speaking nonsense. Everyone finally understood what was going on. If they spoke about Mo Zhuling, in order to deal with Mo Zhuling, Su Xiaoxiao and the others might let them live. But if they stubbornly refused to speak, or were judged to be slandering, then they would be dead. Mo Zhuling and the others would definitely kill them to silence them. They looked at the Star Alliance's alliance leader who was coldly looking at them. Their hearts were filled with regret and tears. If they had known that this would be the result, they wouldn't have agreed to Mo Zhuling attacking Su Xiaoxiao and the others even if they were beaten to death. Just as they were loudly crying out for injustice, the Star Alliance's alliance leader coldly snorted. He had just received the news and rushed over. No matter what was going on, he knew that he could only bite the bullet to death in the end. This matter had nothing to do with the alliance leader's faction, especially not Mo Zhuling's. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to explain this matter clearly. How did Mo Zhuling enter the mirror array? If he said that he didn't know, would others believe him? Therefore, he could only insist on this matter and pour dirty water out of it. As he thought this, he coldly looked at Su Xiaoxiao and the others and said, "Our Star Alliance has always been tolerant towards people of True Spill Continent. But you can't wantonly slander us because of this. Linger did do something wrong before, and she was punished afterwards. She can't speak on the bed, she can't move, she's almost a cripple. Let her go this time." As soon as he spoke, the expressions of Su Xiaoxiao and the others instantly changed. F***CK. That old bastard. Yuan Hu looked furious. The leader of the Star Alliance was clearly saying that they were deliberately slandering her, because they hated Mo Zhuling for what he had done in the past. He even deliberately acted pitiful and said that Mo Zhuling had already been punished. What did that have to do with them? The punishment that Mo Zhuling had received was not their doing. Not to mention that it was Mo Zhuling who had attacked them this time, but in the words of the leader of the Star Alliance, they had become the unforgiving villains who had deliberately attacked Mo Zhuling because of a small grudge. Holy **T. Yuan Hu couldn't hold himself back any longer. Su Xiaoxiao pulled him back. "Don't be rash, he's waiting to provoke us." Her expression was cold. "That's right, once we attack, he'll immediately show that he's magnanimous and won't stoop to our level. When that happens, even if the water in the pot isn't muddied, it'll be even more difficult for us to explain ourselves." Ling Tianhan gritted his teeth as he said this. Yuan Hu clenched his fists, his heart filled with indignation. "Then what should we do? Can we only watch as this old bastard distorts the truth? If it wasn't for that little white cat that suddenly appeared, we would have really fallen into Mo Zhuling's hands. Now he even had to take the blame for this despicable person who had deliberately set her up. I can't take it anymore." As soon as he said this, Ling Tianhan and the others gritted their teeth. There's no other way. Ling Tianhan could smell the blood in his mouth. He was about to break his teeth from clenching them so hard. Unless we can prove that Mo Zhuling has indeed appeared in the mirror array, otherwise. Chapter 28:34. With a buzzing sound, everyone looked at the huge mirror array that had suddenly lit up with astonishment. This was the second time the mirror array lit up. Previously, when it lit up, Zhu Yujie and the others were thrown out. What's going on now? Ling Tianhan and the others also looked at the huge mirror array that lit up behind them in shock. This mirror array lit up again and again. Was it because of them? For some reason, everyone felt that this mirror array was not lit up by chance. Yuan Hu's eyes lit up as he looked at the huge mirror array. He said to Ling Tianhan and the others, "Hey, don't you think that this mirror array has lit up at this time to help us clear our grievances? Don't forget, that little white cat saved us in this mirror array. Didn't that woman Emo Zhuling say that it was a restriction in the mirror array? I think it can't stand that woman's actions, so it's helping us on purpose. When Yuan Hu said that, everyone who was about to refute him suddenly stopped talking. Now that you mention it, there might really be such a possibility. Otherwise, why would the mirror array light up at this time? Because of Yuan Hu's words, everyone inexplicably looked forward to seeing the mirror array light up. The Star Alliance's leader had just arrived and did not know what happened before. Therefore, he did not feel anything when the mirror array lit up. As for why it lit up, it was probably because the mirror array was damaged and was repairing itself. With that thought, he did not spend any more attention on the mirror array. He did not even look at the mirror array. He just looked at Su Xiaoxiao and the others. When he saw that they seemed to have nothing to say, he immediately snorted coldly and said with an indifferent expression, "All right, although your thoughts are not pure, I will not lower myself to your level. However, it's not good for you to be so scheming at such a young age and bear grudges. When you go back, reflect on your mistakes in seclusion." As soon as he said that, he did not notice the voices around him. Everyone quieted down. After teaching Su Xiaoxiao and the others a lesson, the Star Alliance's leader snorted and raised his hand to grab Zhu Yujie and the others. These people could not be left alive. They had to be dealt with immediately. However, just as he was about to make a move, a Star Alliance elder blocked his path. "Alliance Master." The Star Alliance elder had a strange expression on his face. "I advise you to look at the images on the mirror array first." The moment he said that, the Star Alliance leader's face froze. What was the image on the mirror array? Just as he was thinking, a sharp voice suddenly resounded. "So what if I like that man? Wang." Hearing this voice, the Star Alliance leader's mind instantly went blank. His mind buzzed. Then he raised his head abruptly and saw the images that kept appearing in the mirror array. The spirit mirror was cracked, but it wasn't completely shattered. Therefore, it was still possible to show the image. It only showed signs of breaking and shattering. The Star Alliance leader looked at the images of Emo Zhuling possessing Zhu Yujie and dealing with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. When he heard the clear and accurate words that represented Emo Zhuling's identity, he felt as if he had been slapped countless times. It was extremely embarrassing. Chapter 28:35. Luo Qingtong slowly retracted her claws. Just now, she had used the power of her eye sorcery to replay the previous scene with her rewind ability. As for why she could do this, it was naturally because this mirror formation space was a virtual illusion. Since the people of the Star Alliance could use it to reconstruct the secret realms that they had explored in the past, Luo Qingtong could also use it to reconstruct the previous scene. She just had to restore the lines of power of the previous scene. This process didn't even require her to control the mirror formation. Of course, you have to be like Luo Qingtong, who can see all the lines of power clearly, and then restore them to their original state. Otherwise, she could only rely on the mirror formation's own ability to reproduce the scene. However, when those things happened, the black fog had used its power to hide the scene. Even if someone used the mirror formation's power, they wouldn't be able to reconstruct the scene. Otherwise, Emo Zhuling wouldn't have dared to reveal her identity so boldly. However, she didn't expect Luo Qingtong's ability to be so extraordinary. She could easily reconstruct the previous scene. Everyone knew that the mirror array had the function of memorizing and replaying the scene of the mirror array. Thus, no one suspected that there was anything wrong with the scene being shown in the mirror formation. Some people even secretly wondered if Emo Zhuling had caused the mirror formation to break. If that wasn't the case, why would the mirror formation suddenly break? They were afraid that Emo Zhuling wanted to harm Su Xiaoxiao and the others, but he was afraid that someone would find out, so he destroyed the mirror formation. However, she didn't expect that the mirror formation would still remember what she had done even after it was destroyed. For some unknown reason, perhaps it was self-repairing, or perhaps it was something else, it just happened to be released at this moment. The evils she brought on herself were the hardest to bear. Everyone looked at the scene shown in the mirror formation, and heard the sound in the air. No one could say that this wasn't Emo Zhuling's doing anymore. Some people even sneaked glances at the leader of the Star Alliance, thinking that the leader had been slapped hard in the face this time. Earlier, he had said confidently that Emo Zhuling couldn't have done it. He had even said that Su Xiaoxiao and the others were cunning and vicious. Who was it that was so vicious? Emo Zhuling's plan to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others was extremely vicious. The Alliance Master and the others actually turned around and attacked Su Xiaoxiao and the others. If the mirror array hadn't suddenly lit up and exposed this matter, Su Xiaoxiao and the others would have been the scapegoats. Those who didn't know would think that they were sinister and vengeful. In the end, the one who held a grudge was eldest Miss. Moreover, she was still thinking about the man of the boss of the True Yen 7 Absolutes. In the end, she was beaten up miserably by someone else. But now, they put the blame on the 7 Absolutes of True Yen and their boss. F***CK. Wasn't he being wronged? This eldest miss was really disgusting. The crowd figured out the ins and outs of what had happened from Emo Zhuling's words. They immediately despised Emo Zhuling, and the Star Alliance's leader. They still had the face to say that they were being wronged. They even made Su Xiaoxiao and the others take the blame. They were really too shameless. The crowd of onlookers didn't dare to say anything in front of the Star Alliance's leader. However, that disdainful expression and gaze had already explained everything. The people on the Alliance Master's side were all battered and exhausted. And the Star Alliance's leader was even more unlucky. He couldn't explain how Emo Zhuling had entered the mirror array. No one believed that it was Emo Zhuling's own ability. The elders of the Star Alliance who didn't belong to the Alliance Master's side left in a huff. The remaining people on the Alliance Master's side were also extremely disappointed. They left with embarrassment and anger. And after Luo Qingtong settled this matter, she directly left the mirror array. Let the Star Alliance's people mess around with the mirror array. They wouldn't be able to find anything anyway. Chapter 2836. Meow. Luo Qingtong's body was picked up by a pair of hands at once. Why is there such a cute kitten here? This voice sounded. In an instant, Luo Qingtong's originally raised claws to scratch the other party fiercely suddenly stopped, and the sharp claws were retracted. This voice. Was it Sueyu and the others? Sure enough, just as she was thinking, the other people's voices sounded. Hey, it's true. How did this kitten appear here? It looks so cute as snow. Did it get separated from its owner? A group of maidservants surrounded it. The little white cat that Luo Qingtong transformed into looked very cute. There was not a single strand of mixed hair on its body. It looked as white as snow, like a soft ball of wool. It was also like a ball of pure white snow, making people unable to stop loving it when they looked at it. Ordinary people wouldn't have such a cat. And just from its appearance, Luo Qingtong did not look like a spiritual beast. There was not a trace of spiritual aura. Everyone thought that it was the pet of some aristocratic family's legitimate daughter, and it got lost in the main square. At this moment, it was anxiously looking around for its owner. After all, the way Luo Qingtong moved and jumped in the square just now, it really looked like it was anxiously looking for its owner. In fact, she wanted to go back to the inn. This way, she could go back to her original body to find Su Xiaoxiao and the others. However, before she could go back, she was intercepted by Sueyu and the others halfway. Luo Qingtong's face was gloomy. If it weren't for Sueyu and the others holding her, she would definitely scratch them with her claws, and then take the opportunity to run away. But forget about Sueyu and the others. She would think of a way to sneak away later. There was no need to hurt them. Thinking of this, she immediately lay obediently in Sueyu's arms. Her well-behaved appearance attracted the exclamations of the maidservants. Everyone rubbed it with incomparable fondness. It simply made Luo Qingtong feel that there was nothing left to live for. Meow. Don't go too far, hey. Be careful that I don't care about old feelings and scratch you. Luo Qingtong bristled. At this moment, Ji Feiyu's voice sounded, relieving her of the crisis of being almost crushed to death by a group of women. The man's clear and gentle voice rang out. What's going on? Nothing, young master. When Sueyu and the others saw Luo Qingtong's anger and heard Ji Feiyu's voice, they immediately restrained themselves. They happily hugged Luo Qingtong and returned to Ji Feiyu's carriage. They said to him, "Young master, we saw a lost kitten. We don't know which family's daughter's pet is. Can we take it with us first? If no one comes to look for it, we'll raise it ourselves." Luo Qingtong listened to Sui Yu's words and her lips twitched. "Who's the lost cat? I'm fine on the road. Can you guys not add scenes for me?" What kind of things were they imagining? Luo Qingtong was speechless. Unfortunately, she was in Xiao Tuanzi's body and couldn't speak. Even if she could speak, she would resolutely not say it. Who would be willing to let others know that they had turned into a cat? Such a silly and cute appearance, she absolutely couldn't let others know. Luo Qingtong finally understood the feeling of having nothing left to live for when Yi Qianxian turned into a little fox. Fortunately, she didn't turn into a cat in front of that man. Otherwise, she didn't know how he would torture her. Chapter 28:37. Luo Qingtong's lips twitched. Even if she was beaten to death, she had to bury this experience. She definitely couldn't let Yi Qianxian, that man, torment her. Especially, she couldn't let him open the door to a new world. Just as Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, Ji Feiyu's cold and gentle voice sounded. "And if that's the case, then keep it for now. But if there's an owner looking for it, you have to return it at the first moment." Ji Feiyu looked at the little white cat in Suiyu's arms. It was like a snowball, abnormally cute. Its pair of eyes seemed to be able to speak, and at this moment, its eyes were constantly moving. For some reason, Ji Feiyu actually faintly saw a bit of depression and confusion in its eyes, as well as an extremely helpless expression. This should be fake, right? How could a cat be so human-like? Ji Feiyu couldn't help but take another look at this little cat. After confirming that it really didn't have any spiritual aura, and wasn't some spiritual beast with spiritual intelligence, he immediately shook his head and secretly laughed. He was really thinking too much. His voice sounded, and immediately, Suiyu and the others cheered and jumped in joy. They really liked this little white cat. If the young master didn't agree to let them keep it, they would definitely be very disappointed. Fortunately, the young master had always been very gentle and considerate, and would never refute their reasonable requests. For such a young master to be able to serve him, it was really their blessing. Everyone was so happy that they kept rubbing Luo Qingtong. The latter already couldn't take it anymore. Seeing that they still wanted to come, she couldn't care about anything else. With a meow, she jumped into Ji Feiyu's carriage and sat on his shoulder. One of her tails circled around his neck, and she wouldn't leave even if she was beaten to death. Damn, Suiyu and the others were too terrifying. Why didn't I see before that these women actually liked small animals so much? What happened to the image of a tomboy? Suiyu, weren't you especially domineering when you were teaching that Commander Qin a lesson? Meow. Stay away from me. Luo Qingtong glared at Suiyu and the others, who asked her to be unable to scratch them, so she could only stay away from them. Her actions stunned Suiyu and the others. Then they laughed. "Young master, look, it likes you." They looked at the scene of Luo Qingtong's tail tightly wrapped around Ji Feiyu's neck, and they couldn't help but cover their mouths and laugh. Young master was indeed a very gentle person. Even small animals liked to get close to him. Hearing their words, Luo Qingtong's lips suddenly, the corners of her mouth fiercely. These women, who in the end to like your family's young master, if it wasn't to avoid your claws, would be like this? Damn it. But they, Suiyu and the others. Anyway, she was just a cat. What others said had nothing to do with her. I'll just find an opportunity to leave later. As for now, she was determined not to leave Ji Feiyu. To avoid being carried, to be carried, to avoid being carried, to be carried. This group of women was simply too terrifying. She didn't want to be stroked to death. Luo Qingtong thought so, and immediately turned her head away, ignoring Suiyu and the others. She only curled up her limbs and lay on Ji Feiyu's shoulder. Chapter 28:38. No, kitten, young master's body is injured. You should stay by his feet. When they made their move, Luo Qingtong was originally prepared to avoid them. But when she heard their words, Luo Qingtong's body suddenly stopped, allowing Sui Yu and the others to carry her down. He was injured? Luo Qingtong looked up at Ji Feiyu, only to discover that the other party's face was faintly pale. But because he had always been weak, there was no color on his face, so it was not very obvious. But now Luo Qingtong received a hint from Sui Yu and the others, so she naturally saw it. It was indeed a sign of insufficient qi and blood. What's going on? In this Star City, there was actually someone who could bypass Qin Xiong's protection and injure him? But why didn't she hear any movement? Such a big matter. There was no reason that there was no news in Star City. Could it be that Qin Xiong and the others deliberately let people injure him? But that couldn't be right. Unless Qin Xiong and the others wanted to die, otherwise, they would never let Ji Feiyu suffer the slightest injury. Luo Qingtong could see it from the team before. Although Qin Xiong and the others looked down on Ji Feiyu, they felt that he was a waste as the legitimate son of the family Ji. But they only dared to obey in public, but oppose in private. It was absolutely impossible for them to openly rebel against Ji Feiyu or disobey his orders, causing Ji Feiyu to be injured. Just the family Ji's investigation alone could make them die hundreds of times. Then what was the reason? Luo Qingtong thought so, immediately straightened up and sat at Ji Feiyu's feet, then saw the exposed wound on Ji Feiyu's wrist. It was a very serious wound, so deep that the bone could be seen. Did the family Ji not have medicinal pills? They actually left Ji Feiyu's wound like this? Luo Qingtong looked at the wound on Ji Feiyu's wrist with a surprised expression. The latter, however, raised his hand to cover his wound. Looking at Luo Qingtong's curious gaze, he suddenly smiled and said, "Did I scare you? Don't worry, it's fine now. I've covered it." His voice was very gentle, as if he was talking to a child instead of a small animal. He raised his hand and patted Luo Qingtong's head. She resisted the urge to dodge, and went to the other side of Ji Feiyu. She lifted her claws and pressed them on Ji Feiyu's uninjured wrist, carefully checking his pulse. Previously, when she was with the family Ji motorcade, she had wanted to check Ji Feiyu's pulse. The other party's situation was very strange. He clearly had sufficient life force, but his body was weak and his aura was weak. This was obviously not right. However, there were many people in the motorcade, and Ji Feiyu stayed in the carriage every day, so Luo Qingtong couldn't get close to him. Most importantly, he was Mo Zhuling's fiancé, and she was mistakenly thought by Sui Yu and the others that she liked him, so she couldn't get close to him. Otherwise, how miserable would it be to be blamed for being a green tea bitch? This was a rare opportunity, so Luo Qingtong took a look for him. She stepped on Ji Feiyu's wrist with her soft little cushion. It felt numb and itchy, but it was very comfortable. In addition, Luo Qingtong's cat claws were naturally not as convenient as a human hand, so she couldn't feel his pulse accurately several times. In order to be able to check carefully, she immediately jumped left and right on Ji Feiyu's left wrist. Chapter 2839. Haha. This little white cat is so cute. She must be wondering why young master's other hand is different from the previous one. Yes. Ha. Stupid, so cute. Sui Yu and the others surrounded Ji Feiyu's carriage and looked at Luo Qingtong's fluttering movements. They immediately convulsed with laughter. Luo Qingtong listened to their words and gritted her teeth. Who were these guys calling stupid? Were they bullying her for not knowing how to speak? She was clearly checking her pulse. She glared at Sui Yu and the others. The latter and the others' laughter had almost stopped. Now that they saw her glare, they couldn't help but laugh and say, "Look, she's glaring at us. So cute, she must be shy. Yes, she's angry." Luo Qingtong's heart really hurt when she heard this. She didn't want to pay attention to this group of unreasonable women. Ji Feiyu looked at this scene and couldn't help but laugh for a while. He raised his other hand, clenched his fist, and put it to his lips. He coughed lightly and then laughed softly. Damn, this man is also laughing. Luo Qingtong didn't have time to fly into a rage when she heard Ji Feiyu's cough become hurried. Young master. Sui Yu and the others didn't have time to tease the little white cat, and hurriedly surrounded Ji Feiyu. A few people patted his back, and another person raised his hand to take off his outer clothes, then revealed the white cloth wrapped inside that was already soaked with blood. You're bleeding again. Young master, did you just pull on your wound? Everyone hurriedly bandaged Ji Feiyu's wound and changed his clothes. Ji Feiyu saw that they were busy and said softly, "It's okay, it will be fine soon." Young master, you're lying. Your injuries have always been self-healing, and any medicinal powder is ineffective. It takes a long time every time, and the pain is increasing day by day. Suiyu's eyes were red. Young master, why didn't you go easy on him? Anyway, as long as Qin Xiong and the others are scared, they won't dare to chase after little Seven. Hearing her words, Ji Feiyu immediately smiled bitterly and said to her, Qin Xiong was stubborn to the extreme at that time. If I didn't let him know that I was determined, he wouldn't have stopped. What's more, I only poked myself in the chest at that time. It's my body that's disappointing. He sighed softly at this point. His initial slash at the arm was indeed exceptionally resolute and ruthless, but the subsequent slash at the chest he actually didn't stab in. It was just a light prick on the skin, and it became like this. His body was becoming more and more dilapidated. As Ji Feiyu said this, he immediately lowered his eyes to hide the dim light in his eyes. Moreover, I intimidated Qin Xiong for my own reasons. It was not entirely for little Seven. At this point he suddenly said in a low voice, I want to cancel the engagement. What? Suiyu and the others were shocked. They looked at Ji Feiyu with indescribable shock on their faces. They never thought that Ji Feiyu would have such a plan in his heart. But, young master, this engagement was personally promised by the old family head to the Star Alliance's leader. Yes, young master. Chapter 2840. The leader of the Star Alliance had saved the old family head's life by chance. The latter had promised to let the third generation of the family Ji's descendants marry Mo Zhuling. Thus, Ji Feiyu had been pushed out. As the son of the family Ji's first wife, he shouldn't have been the one to marry Mo Zhuling. However, because he didn't have any power and couldn't cultivate, he was seen as a disgrace to the family Ji. Once this matter came out, everyone immediately pushed the blame onto Ji Feiyu. The old patriarch also knew that this matter would make things difficult for his family's disciples, so he turned a blind eye to it. Just like that, Ji Feiyu, as the son of a top family in the 8-star region, was forced to marry a girl from a low-level family in the 9-star region. Many people used this matter to mock him. This made his life, which was already mocked because of his lack of power, even worse. Everyone felt sorry for Ji Feiyu, but they also knew that if Ji Feiyu suddenly broke off the engagement, he would be severely punished when he returned. After all, the family Ji's people pushed Ji Feiyu out to marry because they wanted to build a good reputation for being trustworthy. Thus, if Ji Feiyu broke off the engagement, the family would be furious. Everyone looked at Ji Feiyu with red eyes. They didn't know why he had such a plan. Ji Feiyu's life in the family Ji wasn't good to begin with. Now that he wanted to break off the engagement, was he pushing himself to his death? Sir, if you don't like the eldest daughter of the Star Alliance, you can just marry her and not touch her. You can find another girl that you like, okay? Sir, it's not good for you to break off the engagement. The maidservant's eyes all turned red. Ji Feiyu sighed softly. I don't dislike her. He hadn't even met Mo Zhuling, so how could he dislike her? However, you all know that my body is simply too damaged. If it's simply because I lack talent and am unable to cultivate, then so be it. However, I am born with a weak body. I don't even know how long I can live. I'm already feeling more and more powerless. Star Alliance's eldest daughter will feel wronged if she marries me. There are countless good men in this world. She shouldn't hang herself on a rotten tree like me just because of the family Ji's selfishness and face. Ji Feiyu analyzed his thoughts to the maidservants around him. Suiyu and the others were his personal bodyguards and maidservants that his mother had chosen for him since he was young. They were almost like siblings. He had always had the idea of breaking off the engagement, but in order not to alert the enemy, he had never said it out loud. This time, I came to the Star Alliance to break off the engagement. As long as I act a little arrogant and show in front of everyone that I don't like Mo Zhuling, when the engagement is broken off, it will all be my fault. At this point he suddenly coughed a few times. Then he suppressed the sweet and fishy taste in his throat. When the time comes, the leader of the Star Alliance will be able to ask the family Ji for enough compensation based on the kindness of the past. When the time comes, it doesn't matter if the eldest daughter of the Star Alliance marries someone else or chooses another descendant of my family Ji. At least I won't be holding her back. Don't you all agree? A girl's blooming years shouldn't be wasted on a cripple like me. I've already thought about this matter. You don't need to persuade me anymore. When he said this, Sueyu and the others immediately choked with sobs. Chapter 2841. No wonder Ji Feiyu didn't express any happiness or opposition when the marriage was mentioned. It turned out that he had been waiting for this day to come. Only when the Star Alliance announced the cancellation of the marriage in front of everyone would the family Ji, who was far away from the 8-star region, be unable to react in time. Only then could the family Ji have no choice but to agree to the cancellation of the marriage and give Mo Zhuling a large sum of money as compensation. Alternatively, they could choose another family Ji's son to marry Mo Zhuling. This way, Mo Zhuling wouldn't be delayed. Why was the young master so stupid? He thought of everyone, but why didn't he think of himself? In this marriage, he was the most innocent and the one who was hurt the most. Because of this marriage with Mo Zhuling, he had been ridiculed and slandered by others. Now that the marriage was cancelled, Mo Zhuling could escape unscathed. But what about him? What would the young master do when he returned to the family Ji? Not to mention, Mo Zhuling and the Star Alliance might not accept the young master's kindness. The group of servant girls were almost crying. Young master. Their hearts were in pain and they couldn't stop crying. Ji Feiyu gently patted their hands and didn't say anything else. All right, let's go back, he said softly. I deliberately said that I wanted to go out for a stroll so that I could find an opportunity to talk to you about this. It's good that you know. When that day comes, don't be too nervous and don't try to stop it. As for what happens after we go back, we'll talk about it when we get back. The group of servant girls wiped their tears and then raised their hands to lower the curtains on Ji Feiyu's carriage. The group of people followed the carriage with heavy hearts and left. They didn't care about the Star Alliance's big event happening in front of them. Originally, they had heard that something big had happened here that was related to the Star Alliance and involved Mo Zhuling, so they wanted to come and take a look. But at this moment, everyone was no longer in the mood to do so. She didn't even want to hear anything related to Mo Zhuling's name. She didn't want to feel bad. As a result, he missed the opportunity to find out Mo Zhuling's true colors. Luo Qingtong sat in the carriage and followed Ji Feiyu and the others back to their residence. She looked up at the man in front of her. To be honest, Luo Qingtong was very surprised by Ji Feiyu's words. She had never met a man like Ji Feiyu before. He was clearly in a difficult situation, but he did not develop a sarcastic and cynical temperament. Instead, he was magnanimous, gentle, and radiant. In order not to implicate Mo Zhuling, she was willing to cancel the engagement. He was even afraid that the people of Star Alliance would be blamed by the family Ji, so he was prepared to take the blame himself. He really had a silly temperament. But this silly temperament touched Luo Qingtong's heart. She thought of the time when she was adopted by the old beggar in her previous life. Everyone advised the old beggar that a person like him couldn't even feed himself, let alone raise a child. It was simply a waste of time. But that person said cheerfully, "It's okay. It doesn't matter if I can't feed myself, as long as I can feed her." Others called her a monster and a red-eyed disease. He told them that it was because he was a beggar and that he was the one who infected her. That person obviously did not have any abilities and was about to starve to death. But he did his best to protect her as she grew up. If it wasn't for him, Luo Qingtong would have died long ago. Without the awakening of supernatural abilities, without the invincible ocular sorcerer, there would be nothing. And now, Ji Feiyu was as silly as the old beggar. Meow. Forget it. Luo Qingtong sighed softly. She was also indebted to Ji Feiyu. This time, she would return the favor and find a way to cure his problem of not being able to cultivate. Chapter 2842. Just as Luo Qingtong was thinking about this, on the other side, in the luxurious mansion of the Star Alliance headquarters, Mo Zhuling opened her eyes. Then with a puff she spat out a mouthful of blood. She fell from the bed and her head hit the pear-blossom wooden chair beside her. Her entire body fell to the ground, and she was in an extremely sorry state. Black fog. Mo Zhuling's entire body went limp. When black fog self-destructed, she was wrapped in its power and was severely injured. Fortunately, black fog's self-destruction was only a part of its power, and Mo Zhuling's was not affected. Otherwise, she wouldn't even be able to come back alive. Thinking about what happened in the virtual mirror array, Mo Zhuling couldn't help but tremble. She lay on the ground and kept calling out Black Fog's name. Her heart was filled with fear. However, Black Fog didn't answer her. She didn't know if it was because it was severely injured or for some other reason. Thinking that Black Fog might disappear from her life because of this, Mo Zhuling's heart trembled. Everything she had now came from the Black Fog. Although she really wanted to get rid of it, now was definitely not the time. Damn it, what was the deal with that little white cat in the mirror array? Since when was there such a powerful restriction in the mirror array? Mo Zhuling's heart was filled with shock and anger. At this moment, Black Fog's weak voice sounded. I need to rest for a while. Don't call me during this time. I won't answer you even if you call me. Find out what's going on with that mirror formation. Black Fog's voice was filled with the same shock and anger as Mo Zhuling's, as well as shame and anger. It never thought that it would almost die because of a 9-star domain spiritual treasure. What was the deal with that mirror array? How could there be a restriction in it that could hurt it? Even if its power was weakened because of the mirror array, it definitely couldn't be hurt by a 9-star domain spiritual treasure. Black Fog's voice was filled with shame and anger. This time, it had almost failed miserably, causing it to be extremely depressed and angry. It disappeared in front of Mo Zhuling with its anger. Seeing it leave, Mo Zhuling calmed down a little. But soon, she became angry again. Because she suddenly remembered that she couldn't deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. The latter would definitely expose her after they left. However, it doesn't matter. She has already injected a trace of power into the bodies of the people from the high-rank continents. As long as she leaves, their bodies will immediately explode. Under such circumstances, even if Su Xiaoxiao and the others confessed, there would be no evidence. At that time, he could say that they were deliberately slandering him. At that time, he might even be able to use this opportunity to beat them up. Although they couldn't do anything to them, they could at least make them suffer a little. Not only that, but it could also ruin the reputation of Su Xiaoxiao and the others. The next time he made a move against them, no one would believe them anymore. As Mo Zhuling thought of this, she suddenly sneered. Her mind was constantly thinking of how to make use of this matter to her advantage. She couldn't wait for Su Xiaoxiao and the others to expose her. Therefore, she wasn't anxious at all. She didn't send anyone to the main square to find out the truth. Chapter 2843. Bang! Just as Mo Zhuling was thinking about how to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others, as well as how to turn the tables on them this time, the door to her room was violently kicked open. Because she was too absorbed in her thoughts and her body was too weak to exert any strength, Mo Zhuling was still lying on the ground, looking indescribably battered and exhausted. At this moment, the door to her room was violently kicked open. She was instantly enraged. Bastard! Who allowed you to enter my room without my permission? She thought it was a servant who was concerned about her safety and heard the commotion in her room. So he rushed in from outside to protect her. However, she didn't expect that the person who rushed in angrily from outside was the leader of the Star Alliance, her father. Unfilial daughter. The leader of the Star Alliance was bristling with anger. He had lost all face in the main square, and now he had almost become the laughingstock of the entire Star Alliance. Everyone knew that he had indiscriminately defended Mo Zhuling in public. Not only that, he had also slandered Su Xiaoxiao and the others. He appeared to be tolerant and magnanimous, but in reality, his conscience was completely black. He had deliberately humiliated and slandered Su Xiaoxiao and the others. Now, Elder Fong and the others had seized the opportunity to make things difficult for him. Not only that, he couldn't explain why Emo Zhuling had appeared in the mirror array. This had become a weakness that Elder Fong and the others could use against him. Only the heavens knew that the leader of the Star Alliance really didn't know what was going on. How could Emo Zhuling have entered the mirror array, and no one had reacted to it, so there was no way to know. However, the elders of the Star Alliance didn't listen to his explanation at all. This was especially true for the people on his side. The elders under him were all very disappointed. They felt that he had given this kind of secret to someone like Emo Zhuling instead of his trusted subordinates. It was really disappointing. In an instant, the leader of the Star Alliance was almost completely isolated. He had become the laughingstock of everyone, and now he was being wrongly accused by his own people. His heart was filled with anger. Almost as soon as he left the main square, he appeared in Emo Zhuling's mansion. Bang! After the leader of the Star Alliance kicked open the door to Emo Zhuling's room, he didn't care how pathetic she looked and directly slapped her and sent her flying out. At this moment he was already fuming with rage. His two eyes were as wide as copper bells, filled with anger and anger. He had almost lost his rationality. He didn't show any mercy in that slap at all. Emo Zhuling was originally half lying on the ground because of his weak body. He had one hand on the chair and couldn't get up at all. Now that he had been slapped by the leader of the Star Alliance, Emo Zhuling was still slapped by the leader of the Star Alliance. Although the leader didn't use his strength, he relied on the strength of his body. He screamed in pain from the force of the leader of the Star Alliance. His entire body flew up in an instant and landed heavily on the bed. Immediately, the entire bed made of heavy red sandalwood disintegrated under the force of Emo Zhuling's blow. Countless red sandalwood shavings mixed with wooden sticks flew toward Emo Zhuling's face. She immediately screamed in pain. After all, she didn't have any defensive strength at all. Father! Chapter 2844. Father, what's wrong with you? Did I do something wrong? Emo Zhuling still didn't know that what he had done had been exposed. He still thought that everything he had done was flawless. The moment she said that, the leader of the Star Alliance's eyes turned even redder. He lifted his leg and kicked Emo Zhuling away. Why are you asking me about what you did? His face was filled with rage. Almost instantly he kicked Emo Zhuling through the wall of the room. With a loud boom, she crashed into the courtyard outside. Emo Zhuling opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. She didn't think that the leader of the Star Alliance would be so ruthless. In fact, even if she did, she wouldn't have been able to avoid it. Because the leader of the Star Alliance wasn't someone she could deal with. If the black fog was here, she might be able to borrow its strength to resist for a while. But now, the black fog's strength was greatly damaged, and it had already escaped. It wouldn't come back until its strength recovered. Therefore, Emo Zhuling could only deal with the leader of the Star Alliance alone. How could he be a match for him? Father, even if you want me to die, at least let me know the reason. Emo Zhuling saw that the leader of the Star Alliance was charging towards her again in a rage. She immediately shouted, "What did I do wrong? Or did you just believe whatever I said and want to attack me? I'm your daughter." The moment she said that, the leader of the Star Alliance clenched his fists so tightly that they cracked. He glared at Emo Zhuling and said coldly, "It's because you're my daughter that I haven't killed you yet. Bastard! You're still being dishonest at a time like this." As he spoke, he raised his hand and sent Emo Zhuling flying with another slap. He shouted angrily, "Do you know that I've become a laughingstock because of you?" He raised his hand and pointed at Emo Zhuling. "The reputation and prestige I've built up over half of my life have all been destroyed by your hands. Tell me honestly now, how did you get into the mirror array? What kind of secret does it hold? If you don't tell me these things, I will beat you to death here today. I'll take it as if my marriage to the family G never happened." The leader of the Star Alliance waved his hands as he spoke, his entire body bursting with anger. He was able to suppress his anger and not kill Emo Zhuling, because of her engagement with Ji Feiyu. Now the family Ji's marriage proposal was in Star City. They had already formally requested to see him, and were only waiting for his reply. If not for this, he might have strangled Mo Zhuling to death the moment the matter was exposed. He had always protected this daughter of his like a pearl or a treasure. He loved her dearly and had never treated her unfairly. Whatever she wanted, as long as it was within his means, he would definitely give it to her. But how did she repay him? She had almost destroyed his Star Alliance and his power. He could forget about offending Yi Qianxian. He had forgiven her for not knowing about it. But this time, why did she provoke Su Xiaoxiao and the others? Hadn't she caused enough trouble for him? If it weren't for the fact that Mo Zhuling and Ji Feiyu could benefit him enough to reverse his previous decline, he would have killed Mo Zhuling already. Chapter 2845. The leader of the Star Alliance was furious. Mo Zhuling, on the other hand, was stunned. "Father, what did you say?" She looked at the leader of the Star Alliance, and wanted to continue denying it. "What mirror formation? What do you mean by going in? I don't know what you're talking about." If it was just Su Xiaoxiao's side of the story, she only needed to deny it. However, Mo Zhuling didn't know that it wasn't just Su Xiaoxiao's side of the story. The mirror formation was in front of her, so she couldn't deny it. She didn't go outside to ask for information, so she didn't know that the news had spread all over the Star Alliance. Even if the leader of the Star Alliance tried his best to block it, those who should know already knew. Those who didn't know, unless they deliberately didn't want to hear it, would talk about it in private. What she said was already exposed to the entire Star Alliance. The leader of the Star Alliance took the blame because of her, making people mistakenly think that he helped Mo Zhuling do it. He also got the secret of the mirror formation, and secretly gave it to Mo Zhuling to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. He didn't care about the safety of the Star Alliance at all. At this moment, he had no way to defend himself at all. His prestige had plummeted to the extreme. Seeing that Mo Zhuling was still pretending to know nothing, he couldn't hide his anger and murderous intent. With a bang, he directly stomped the bluestone road in front of him into smithereens. A large amount of gravel and dirt flew towards Mo Zhuling like sharp weapons with a violent and terrifying force. "Ah!" Mo Zhuling screamed. He was riddled with holes by the gravel and dirt. His whole body was injured. Blood flowed out of his body. Even the hair on her head was covered in blood. It was disheveled and scattered all over the place. She looked like a madwoman. She was battered and exhausted. "Father!" she screamed. She didn't know why the leader of the Star Alliance would be so cruel to her. Shouldn't he be listening to her sobs? Or was it that he was so afraid of that man that he would kill Su Xiaoxiao and the others just to appease them, regardless of whether it was fabricated or not? Mo Zhuling's heart was filled with hatred. However, at this moment, the Star Alliance's leader's voice sounded. "You still refuse to repent. The mirror array has already announced what you have done to the world. Not only that, Zhu Yujie and the others also testified against you. Under such circumstances, you're still saying that you're innocent. So, when you entered the mirror matrix, you said you liked that man and wanted to torture Su Xiaoxiao and the others to death. Are you a ghost?" The leader of the Star Alliance was furious. He strode towards Mo Zhuling. The latter was completely immersed in his words. Her heart was filled with disbelief. How was this possible? Under the cover of the black fog, the mirror array couldn't possibly detect her existence. How could it record the scene of her dealing with Su Xiaoxiao and the others and show it to everyone? This was impossible. How was this possible? However, just as she was trying to deny it, she suddenly thought of something. The little white cat, it was that little white cat. It must be her. All of his actions had been for naught. Mo Zhuling broke down and wanted to scream. Chapter 2846. Mo Zhuling's heart trembled when she saw his merciless and murderous move. Then she hurriedly shouted, "Wait, father. I'll speak." As soon as she spoke, the Star Alliance's alliance master's hand froze. He coldly looked at her and said, What is it? What is the secret of the mirror array? He urgently needed this secret to shut the mouths of the elders, so that they would not be able to make things difficult for him. At the same time, he also needed to restore his reputation. However, Emo Juling's eyes kept changing. She did not dare to speak about the black fog. When the black fog had found her, it had said that if she dared to speak about anything related to it, even if it was only a little, she would suffer an extremely terrible punishment. That punishment would definitely be much worse than when she had been smashed into a pulp by Situme. Emo Juling did not dare to disobey the black fog's orders. The black fog had single-handedly saved her from the mud she had been before. She was very clear about the black fog's methods. It could definitely make her suffer a fate worse than death. Therefore, she clenched her teeth and did not dare to reveal anything related to the black fog. But if she did not talk about the black fog, who else could she talk about? Was there any way to get her out of this dangerous situation? Seeing the Star Alliance's alliance master's face darken again because of her silence, and his killing intent rose again, she immediately clenched her teeth. Suddenly, a person's name flashed through her mind. Then, as if she had grabbed onto a life-saving straw, she hurriedly shouted, "It's young Master Lu Yu." "Father, it's the young master of the 7 Star Fields Jinchang region's Lu family. Father, it was because of his help that I was able to enter the mirror array." Emo Juling said. She suddenly cried and said, "Father, I didn't mean to hide it from you. It's just that young Master Lu Yu's identity is special. I couldn't tell you, so I kept hiding it from you." "Father, I just can't accept it." "Why should you? Those people from the true Spill continent are only people from a low-level continent, but they are almost above you. You should be the ruler of the Star Desolate region. And because of them, I almost became a cripple and could only lie on the bed like mud for the rest of my life. I just can't accept it. That's why I borrowed young Master Lu Yu's hand to teach them a lesson in the mirror array. Father, please forgive me. Can you forgive me?" Emo Juling knelt at the feet of the leader of the Star Alliance. The latter's expression kept changing. He looked at her and said coldly, "Why would young Master Lu Yu help you?" He already believed half of Emo Juling's words. Even if the other party wanted to deceive him, he couldn't have gone into such detail. Furthermore, whether this matter was true or not, he would be able to find out as soon as he investigated. Emo Juling's lies were completely useless. Therefore his voice slowed down a little. If the young master of the 7 Star Fields aristocratic family was a relatively tyrannical aristocratic family, then he might have some methods to break through their mirror array's defenses and enter without them noticing. This wasn't impossible. Thinking this, he looked at Emo Juling and his complexion changed. His daughter had actually managed to cling on to the young master of the 7 Star Fields aristocratic family? She wasn't bad. Chapter 2847. Before she finished speaking, the Star Alliance's leader had already understood. Young Master Lu Yu must have taken a fancy to his daughter. That was why he helped her enter the mirror array to deal with Su Xiaoxiao and the others. He just didn't know how much young Master Lu Yu liked Emo Juling. If it was deep enough, as the Star Alliance's leader thought of this, his expression completely relaxed. He looked at Emo Juling and said, "Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" If he had known that this was done by a young master of an aristocratic family from the 7 Star Field, then he wouldn't have been so embarrassed when facing the Star Alliance's elders. However, Emo Juling didn't dare to tell him that she had originally planned to use young Master Lu Yu's identity as a trump card. When Luo Qingtong appeared in the true Spill continent, then she would use her to deal with her. Now that she had exposed it ahead of time, she didn't know if that would alert the enemy and allow that bitch Luo Qingtong to escape. Emo Juling thought of this and suddenly clenched her teeth. The Star Alliance's leader didn't expect her to give him an answer, because he had already thought of the reason why Emo Juling didn't dare to tell him. He looked at Emo Juling and asked, "Do you already know? The G Clan's people have already arrived in Star City, and they have requested to see me. If I'm not mistaken, they should be here to propose marriage." As soon as the Star Alliance's leader said this, Emo Juling's expression suddenly changed. "What?" she cried out in alarm. The family G's people have already arrived? How could this be? How could they be so fast? Emo Zhuling's expression changed. She originally thought that the family G's people wouldn't act so quickly. That was because they didn't have much intention of forming a marriage alliance with their side to begin with. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let her get engaged to a trash. At the thought of Ji Feiyu, Emo Zhuling gritted his teeth. He was extremely unwilling to give up. Originally, she was very happy that she could be engaged to the son of the 8-star Dongting family Ji. In the end, by chance, she found out that the legitimate son of the family Ji that she was going to marry in the future was just an abandoned son of a family, a good-for-nothing. Her heart could no longer remain calm. Why should she marry a piece of trash? So what if he was the direct descendant of an 8-star domain's aristocratic family? Without strength, he was no match for any of the scions of the aristocratic families on their side. She was the dignified young mistress of the Star Alliance. Yet she had to marry such a person. How could she accept this? Therefore, when he saw Yi Qianxian, Emo Zhuling knew that it was very likely that he was not from their star field, but someone from a high-ranking star field. He immediately prepared to recruit him. But who would have thought that he was someone she couldn't touch? Because of this incident, her life was almost ruined. She had been bedridden for more than half a year, living a life worse than death. As she thought about it, Emo Zhuling developed some hatred for the Dongting family Ji. After all, in her opinion, if the Dongting family Ji hadn't looked down on her and forced her to get engaged to a piece of trash, she might not have ended up like this. Emo Zhuling had never thought of looking for the reason from herself. She just wanted to deal with all the people who had wronged her, and the family Ji was one of them. She had originally planned to deal with the family Ji after she dealt with Luo Qingtong. She hadn't expected them to come knocking on her door. Chapter 2848. Thinking of her good-for-nothing fiancé, she said coldly, "Father, I won't marry him. I already know young Master Lu Yu from the 7-star field. Why should I marry someone from the 8-star field? Especially when he's a good-for-nothing." She said this with a cold expression. Then, she said to the Star Alliance's leader, "Father, young Master Lu Yu loves me deeply. He said he wanted to marry me long ago. I just wanted to wait and see. When the time is right, I'll tell you. That way, you can go to the family Ji and break off the engagement. But now that the family Ji has come to propose, we can't delay this any longer. I'll ask him to come and propose immediately. Father, just wait for him in the Star Alliance." The moment she said this, the Star Alliance's leader was overjoyed. He had brought up the family Ji's proposal because he wanted to test Emo Zhuling's attitude. He wanted to see how far her relationship with young Master Lu Yu had progressed, and whether she had a firm grasp on the other party. Now, it seemed that Emo Zhuling had a firm grasp on the other party. The young master of the 7-star field's family Ji was naturally much more powerful than the 8-star field's family Ji. Unless the Star Alliance's leader was stupid, he wouldn't give up on Lu Yu and continue the engagement with the family Ji. In fact, he was also very displeased that the family Ji had sent Ji Feiyu to marry Emo Zhuling. Back then, when he had proposed the marriage to the old head of the family Ji, he had wanted Emo Zhuling to marry a member of the family Ji, who had a bright future. Then he would be able to climb up the social ladder of the 8-star field's family. After all, a favor was only temporary, but a marriage alliance would last forever. But who would have thought that the family Ji would produce a good-for-nothing? Not only that, but she was also the one who married Emo Zhuling. The leader of the Star Alliance had no choice but to accept it. After all, his original intentions were not pure. Since the family Ji did not reject the engagement, he had no reason to break off the engagement. Otherwise, if the marriage failed and they became enemies instead, he would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. However, now that Emo Zhuling knew a young master from the 7-star field, all the obstacles were gone. Could it be that the family Ji dared to stop a young master of a 7-star field family from marrying his daughter? So what if she was engaged? Just withdraw. The family Ji had sent a good-for-nothing to marry his daughter. He had every reason to break off the engagement. As the leader of the Star Alliance thought this, he suddenly felt an indescribable sense of exultation. As he looked at Emo Zhuling, he felt that he had become cute and adorable. He was no longer as repulsive as he was before. In fact, as long as Emo Zhuling did not threaten his power and foundation, he was very willing to love this daughter of his. But the premise was that she did not cause trouble for him, especially the kind of trouble that had nearly knocked him into the abyss. As the leader of the Star Alliance thought this, he suddenly looked at Emo Zhuling and said, "Good, I will go and tell the family Ji that I want to break off the engagement. Also, daughter, are your injuries serious? I really didn't know that there was such a secret behind this matter. But you should also know how serious the consequences of dealing with someone from the true Spill continent are. Don't blame me for being too heavy-handed. If I hadn't been heavy-handed, I wouldn't have been able to explain myself to Fong Cheng and the others." Chapter 2849. The chief of the Star Alliance pushed the blame of him being too heavy-handed to Elder Fong and the others. In fact, he was angry, so he came to find trouble with Emo Zhuling. But he didn't mention it. He helped Emo Zhuling up from the ground. The latter was lying on the ground. His entire body was covered in blood and mud. It was a tragic sight. But Emo Zhuling didn't dare to be dissatisfied with the Star Alliance's leader because of this. This was because she was relying on the Alliance Master of the Star Alliance. Because she was the leader's daughter, had the identity of the Star Alliance's eldest daughter, and was full of hatred for Luo Qingtong, the Black Fog chose her. Otherwise, who knew if the leader would choose someone else to support her? Because of this, even though Emo Zhuling's heart was filled with hatred, and all the bones in his body felt as if someone had taken them apart and replaced them, and the pain was unbearable, Emo Zhuling didn't dare to be dissatisfied with the Star Alliance's leader. He even smiled and said that he was fine, and thanked his father for his concern. But Emo Zhuling was like this to the Star Alliance's leader, but not to others. Especially to the family Ji's people. At this moment, she transferred all her hatred and pain from being beaten by the Star Alliance's leader to the family Ji's people. "Father, you don't have to tell the family Ji's people that we want to break off the engagement, so as to avoid unnecessary trouble." As she spoke, she swallowed an elixir to relieve the external injuries and pain on her body. She then said to the Star Alliance Master, "Previously, we were afraid of the Ji family's strength and identity, so we didn't dare to tell them to break off the engagement. But now we already have young Master Lu Yu's support. Why should we be afraid of the family Ji's people? They used a piece of trash to propose to us. It's obviously a humiliation to us. Father, don't you want to get back at them? I think we can publicly break off the engagement when the family Ji proposes. This way, we can let the family Ji's people have a taste of how they humiliated us. Let them know that us father and daughter are not to be trifled with. Besides, if young Master Lu Yu comes to propose in person, it will be a great honor for you, father, and you will have more prestige in the Star Alliance. So as to avoid those old dogs in front of Fongcheng from riding on your head by relying on that command plate that's completely useless to them." As Emo Zhuling said this, he laughed coldly. When the leader of the Star Alliance heard her words, his heart skipped a beat. This was indeed an excellent method. Firstly, she could vent her anger at the family Ji's perfunctory attitude. Secondly, it could also increase his prestige. To be honest, ever since Elder Fong and the others had obtained the young Emperor command plate, he had always been at a disadvantage because of what Emo Zhuling had done to the true Spill continent. If this continued, he might not be able to keep his position as the leader of the Star Alliance. This was also the reason why the leader of the Star Alliance was so angry that he attacked Emo Zhuling so ruthlessly. This was because he had indeed been forced to retreat step by Elder Fong and the others. And now, Emo Zhuling had come to add to his troubles. The Crown Prince token could not protect Elder Fong and the others, but it could make Elder Fong hesitate to attack. This was because they were the ones who had offended Yi Qianxian in the past. But what if the person who attacked was Lu Yu? Lu Yu did not know about the young Emperor command plate, and the command plate did not exist for Elder Fong and the others. If they did not want to be destroyed by Lu Yu, they could only be respectful to him. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.